You're listening to episode 248 of the Comics Pals. We're a group of comic book journalists and friends who record a podcast together because we don't talk enough about comics in our daily lives.
You guys hear that?
No.
No.
Something in the recording with one of your microphones?
No, my AC's off.
I'm hearing this popping sound that I can't stop hearing it. What is this?
Interesting. Now that you mention it, maybe I think I hear it.
What is it? Is it Zoom? It's never done this before.
It might be.
Interesting.
Well, we are here to talk about comics. Could it be related to comics?
Like a comic pop?
Oh, there you go. You said the magic word, and we're joined by Sal from ComicPop.
Woo! What an intro. Thank you.
You are welcome. Would you believe I've done worse than that?
No, that was pretty good. That was pretty good. I'll give it to you because I over the years I've had some pretty rough intros, and that one was actually on brand. Like that worked fine. It wasn't like weird or it wasn't esoteric. It didn't have anything. Like the channel's Comic Pop. You heard a popping sound. You hear that in the mic. I was legitimately worried my mic was actually having a problem. but no. Thank you very much for that intro. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me, pals.
Absolutely. This is what we are referring to as the crossover of the week.
Pals and the Pops.
Yeah, week is good.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say crossover the century, but
not even close.
No. Well, we're dragging you down. You guys,
no. This is a good show. I'm amazed, by the way. Not to interrupt. I'm sorry.
No, please.
I was just looking at when you reached out to me, I was like, all right, let's check a look at these freaking pals. And you've been 200 shows. Most folk who reach out are like, I've just started a show and you should come on. I'm like, let's see if you're going to actually keep doing the show before we, have guests on.
Yeah.
But 200 and some, what was it? 40 something?
48. Yep.
Yeah. And it's consistent, like good audio, good video, 248 episodes. That is an achievement.
Wow,
that's more than I could say.
Thank you very much.
Certainly not. But thank you. I appreciate that. It's very rare that we get a guest on here who is complimenting us. You've turned the tables already, Sal.
Happy to do it. Thank you.
So if you are somehow unaware of who Sal is, of course, as we said at the top, from the YouTube channel ComicPop. It's funny because you guys have a similar kind of deal going on that we do, a personality-driven series of shows about comics. And it's all really cool. You guys have 2 channels now.
That's right. Thank you for remembering. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. ComicPop Returns, where you guys are doing, like your live content, which is really cool.
Yes.
They do interviews with some pretty high-profile guests. We're going to get into that because I have some questions for you about that. And they do comic reviews just like us. So we're very similar channels, and that's why we felt that it would be cool to kind of bring you on and have a conversation. So that's what we're going to do today, and we're very excited for that. Before we get into all that, I do want to let you guys know where you can find the pals all over the internet. If you are new to us, we do interviews, talk about the news, and all of the comic characters you love in all the places you can find them right here on this show every single Monday. So while you're thinking about us, leave us a follow, a rating, a review on your podcast hosting platform of choice. If that happens to be YouTube, make sure you hit the subscription button to subscribe for free. Leave us a like, drop us a comment. All those things are free to do, and they help us out a lot more than they cost you. If you want to talk to us, write to us at thecomicspals@gmail.com. And if you really want to hang out with us, join our Discord server where we're always having fun conversations about all the stuff that happens on this podcast every single week and everything else. So without further ado, Sal.
Yes. Hello.
Hello again.
What I appreciate about all that, as Sean went through his spiel, Sal was doing his version of that as a podcast host, and he was gesturing more than Sean was.
Just
really hamming up those faces.
You got it. It's a visual medium, man. You gotta play to the audience. You got to keep them interested.
Fair point. I got to work on that.
One of the first things that one of the only things that a professional YouTube multi-channel network executive, who of course was unceremoniously fired after they were acquired by a large corporation, told me that if you're doing a lot of like long form YouTube content, guess what? 90% of your audience isn't watching. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, no, they're putting it on and they're doing laundry or they're doing other things, but they're not watching you.
Yep.
And I'm like, cool. So I try to gesture a little more, kind of give those people who are watching the show, who are actively viewing the show, a little something extra.
Interesting. Yeah. As you were saying that, I was thinking like, well, do I do that? And I thought about all the times I've been on YouTube in the last week. Yeah. And I was, tabbed out doing something, playing a game or working or whatever. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Doing laundry with my, headphones in. So yeah, absolutely. That's true.
Right.
Speaking of the channel though, you guys have been around for quite some time yourselves.
Yeah.
When did you officially start ComicPop?
Oh, I didn't know there was gonna be a quiz. Well, it's been a while, right? Not to quote a song, but it's that song will be forever remembered.
You're not kidding.
Like literally, that song is like, who was it? Stained?
Stained, yes.
Yeah, I will never forget. I'll be dying and be like, Stained did that. But like anytime anybody says it's a while, it's like God, I get no. There's another one. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's Ben.
No. No, there's another song I'm trying to think of, but it doesn't matter. It's not what the show's about. You asked me when the hell we started, and the answer is coming to me just as soon as I look it up.
Vamping. We're vamping. It's okay.
Yeah, no, 2011 is when we joined YouTube officially.
Wow.
I want to say that back issues probably started. I'll have to look that up too. It's been a long time. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, like, here we go. 7 years ago.
Right.
Nice.
Yes, we've been doing this for 7 years. And when I started, it's funny because like YouTube is like dog years, right? Because it's like, I've been doing this for only 7 years. And they're like, 7 years. That's when like the dinosaurs began. And I'm like, there were dinosaurs before me, man. Anybody remember Joe Beretta?
No.
Oh, he's great. But yeah, man, the people who inspired me long since aged out of the system.
Yeah.
And I've deliberately like kind of been actively aware of that, like YouTube is kind of like recycling and moves over, and I try to like remain relevant, trying to innovate, create new things, and consistently be here, as opposed to like some people who are like, well, I've kind of moved on. I want to get into like TV and stuff like. I'm like, no, I'm good right here. This is it. I've never done. My parents always ask me, they're like, hey, so you think you're gonna move this into like maybe TV or movies? And I'm like, I tried to do that. Like before that, more than 7 years ago, I tried to get into TV and movies.
Yep.
They didn't want me. And seeing it and being on the other side of it and getting closer to it, having done YouTube than ever before, I don't want it. What other world do I get to literally hang out with my friends and make the content I want to make with no expectations from anybody else except the audience, and I get paid to do it? This is it. This is it. We're good.
And that's the brilliant part about what YouTube has kind of been for so many of us over the years. It's like, you don't have to have connections to get on television and deal with Hollywood and all that extra stuff. Like,
right.
You can, sit in front of your microphone and your camera and talk, and people will listen or they won't. And you can, but you're betting on yourself.
Right. Exactly. You literally, all you have to do is fall down by accident and you could be a sensation.
Yeah.
That's
amazing. Yeah. Somebody needs to fall out of their chair, and then you clip that, put that on a TikTok or something. And
Marco, go.
Perfect TikTok content. I just opened it up. Wait, ready?
He didn't even commit.
Amazing.
Know,
didn't even. Don't hurt yourself on my account. Not on the episode I'm on.
So there came a time, I'm sure, as you were putting out videos, grinding away, that you saw a jump. You saw an increase in viewers, an increase in subscribers, that kind of put you on the map. That put ComicPop on the road to being where you guys are now, on the road to 100K, which is amazing.
Thank you.
And I encourage everyone listening to go and support that journey. Get ComicPop to 100K. They absolutely deserve it.
Thank you.
Is there anything that you attribute the success of the brand to, that moment where you kind of went from like, we're doing okay, to wow, this is really something?
It's interesting because we're still kind of waiting for that moment. But when we turned into a comic book channel, like when it was like, oh, I can really do this. It was Secret Wars, when we did the original 1984 Secret Wars episode of Back Issues. I was just going through books that I had read recently based on that show, and we did Secret Wars, and clandestinely the episode dropped, and YouTube was volatile enough. And when I say volatile, I don't mean that in a derogatory. I mean like when it was like anything could happen. When they dropped, like right when Hickman announced that his event was going to be called Secret Wars. And so everybody was searching Secret Wars. And for us, like we were doing okay. Like we were getting like 10, 12, or like, for when we had also launched Off the Rack, our comic book review show, and that did okay. We did a couple hundred here, a couple hundred there, maybe 1,000. And I remember when Secret Wars hit, I think it jumped to 10K, like in like a week. And I'm like, what's happening? Like, why is this working? And then someone's like, yeah, man, Secret Wars. I'm like, oh. And that's kind of when the algorithm, not the algorithm that YouTube literally like just sent off like drones and runs the whole thing now, but rather the math of, if you do this and piggyback off of that and hit the Google trend, you can, like, there's a math to it that you can follow. And thankfully, I was actually just around that time also on the radar of Benny and Rob from Comic Story and Comics Explained, respectively. Yeah. And they were looking for a third for their podcast. And thankfully, I fit the bill. And their interest in us helped bolster us a little further, and their knowledge, like their knowledge of gaming the system and using like the algorithms and the math involved in like trends to kind of parlay us a little further than we would have had we just been going by the seat of my pants, because that's how I normally operate, and that's how ComicPop has operated. I mean, like, we weren't even ComicPop until a few years into the channel, and it's another issue we had, because like, it's again all about the math. Now I don't even know like how YouTube operates and how YouTube like selects you for like viral status, or even just push notification status, because as you know as well as I do, I'm sure, that like liking the video, subscribing to the channel, it ain't enough anymore. Now you got to hit the bell for notifications, but it's not enough to do that. You also have to consistently watch the show, and then if you do watch the show, YouTube will show the show to you. Like, it's just this whole thing. But back then it was the Wild West, dude. And that's funny because YouTube had already been a thing. Like, I had already learned some of the math about how to do YouTube 7 years ago, and it had changed. And so it was around then. It was probably around like the 6-year mark. So I'd been doing it for probably about a year or so, or half a year, when Secret Wars hit, and that like kind of pushed us. The other thing was, of course, like Secret Wars spun into, like a bazillion different titles, and I don't know, I have not seen anything like that again in a long time, outside of things like New 52 or Rebirth. And that helped a lot, because there were so many books and there were so many new fans, and there was so much like just eyeballs on it, that if we hit on anything people were interested in, it helped get people in. And then they would watch it and be like, oh, I'm not like finding out what happens in the comic book necessarily. I'm getting a lot of commentary, discussion, discourse, and stuff like that. And opinions, which back then, a lot of folks were kind of like, don't give your opinion, because that you'll alienate the audience. you know, you want to get everybody. I was never interested in that. I'm just incapable of doing it, is the reality. I'm just incapable of censoring myself enough to be like, I'll just say I like everything. I remember doing shows, like I've been on other people's shows where I'm like, I'm going to test myself and see if I could just say I like everything, you know, get the audience in, you know, because if we're, you know, the collab is all about like finding new people, like what do you call your audience? Are they the pallies? What is there?
Ooh, you know, we don't have a name for them yet.
Oh,
I guess we always just kind of assumed they were extended pals.
Right.
Yeah.
Extended pals. Yeah. You want to give them something to get behind.
Interesting.
You know, like we have the population, which I think Tiffany coined. I don't
Oh,
remember.
That's good. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
What about what about the palsulation?
Wow.
Feels a little derivative.
What do you mean?
You might want to workshop that a little bit.
I'm just throwing stuff at the wall.
Yeah. No. Yeah. No. You know what? There are no bad ideas here.
You're right. There are no good ideas. You're right.
That's well. You know, you got me on the show. But thank you. Yeah. So yeah, that's how we started. Was just like making and what's funny is that like that really sparked my desire to make more. You know, it's like we did back issues, which was like a no-brainer. Off the rack, I was like, well, I just want to do reviews because I think that'll catch it. You know, because comic books have so many people. We'll just all we have to do is talk about the latest issue of Grayson. And this is back when we started, but you know, and we'll get everybody in. No.
Right.
But then it was like, oh well, let's try this show and this show and this show. And it was like, man, we made like, I don't know, 7 or 8 different shows within a year, and consistently produced them. So
yeah. I mean, you guys have several different shows, and I know you talked about how you had to kind of bring some of that down. You had a larger number you had to bring down and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You talked about how, you know, we experience this. I think every content creator experiences this to some degree. If you mess with YouTube, like, you know, you were saying how you do one show and people are watching that show, but then that hurts another show somehow.
Well, yeah, that's the algorithm now. That's the math now. And what's great is it'll change, you know, like right now, YouTube people and those who have a vested interest in saying they're experts at YouTube are saying, you know, like YouTube really favors one show. You know, if you make one show, let's say you make 3 shows on your YouTube channel, and one of them is doing pretty well, then that's the show you should be making. And then get rid of those other shows. Like, and then it's like, well, what about the other 2 shows that are doing okay that still make me revenue? They're like, I don't care about that. All I focus on is that one show you're making that people are definitely watching. And if, like, let's say you made 3 shows in a row, 1, most people watch, 2, some people watch. As long as those numbers are consistently like more people here, fewer people here, they'll actually push all of the shows like less than they would, you know, if you were just making the one show that everybody was watching, which is why we moved.
Wild.
I know. And it was funny because, like, you know, it's contradictory to what they used to say, where it's like, you know, it's a channel, make all kinds of stuff. You know, you'll hit, because that's the thinking we had was, the mentality was, make a bunch of shows so that the channel is for everybody. You know, oh, I only like reviews. We got you covered. Oh, we only like unboxings. We got you covered. You know, I only want to know about what like this book is about. Okay. Like, no problem. You know, what about movie commentaries? We do that too. Like, we have all this different stuff, and you know, it kind of teetered between views, but no, we noticed that just things were getting lower and lower, and I'm like, is it us? Like, are we dying? And then, you know, I'd get calls from my colleagues, whom I won't name just to not put them on blast, but, you know, where they're like, everything's on fire. And I'm like, okay, good. Everyone's on fire. All right. And then I just like scaled back the old stuff, and suddenly everything bounced back. I'm like, okay, damn. So
yeah, you know, it's like, you really have to be like a mathematician. Like, you've got to put a board up with all these different, you know, like those memes where the people are like,
we're looking for Pepe Sylvia.
It's unbelievable, and I don't know that people really understand how important it is to really just support what you like, and to go the extra mile. You know, like, for example, before we started doing YouTube, I would never like a video. I would just watch it and call it a day.
Yeah.
And now that I'm on the other side, I'm like, oh my God, I have to like this video because if I don't like it, I'm screwing over the content creator.
Yeah.
And I got to watch the whole thing.
Right.
You know?
Right. I still have no idea what likes do.
Me neither. I just do it.
Right. I think the idea is that if there's a higher percentage of views to likes, YouTube goes like, oh, this video is liked by a lot of people, and I'll bet more people will like it too, and so they'll push it harder or something. It's just super dumb.
You're not going to hear any argument from me.
But also, we've heard that dislikes also don't matter. Yeah, it's still engagement. So like,
yeah, no, that one actually is completely useless. Like they might as well get rid of it. But but I'm glad they do, because then how else will we know? What else will we use to scare the pants off of Hollywood when they release a trailer that nobody likes?
Right.
And then they have to backpedal or focus. Like, we wouldn't have gotten a good-looking Sonic in the Sonic movie without all those dislikes.
You're probably you know what? We've got the comments section for that, in which they are.
Yeah, but the comment section is quickly disregarded by every critic. Like anybody in an executive level is like, that's the comment section. That's cancer. Don't go down there. But if because it costs nothing to go meh. Like to focus on writing a comment, you have to be a special kind of motivated. And Hollywood / executives / everybody who makes money or focuses on the money angle, they don't care about the comment section, because they're just like, oh, no. Those are the crazies who will actually write down those, in the olden days, those people who wrote letters.
Right.
And it's like they did the effort to write a thing and click enter. Oh, who has time for that? But if you have time to go, no. Like, you see a movie trailer just like, I say thee nay. Dislike. They're like, that speaks volumes. Like, one dislike equals 10,000 dislikes. Like, no, that scares them more than anything else. So they'll never get rid of they might get rid of the dislike button only to appease themselves to like higher media, because YouTube is always like, oh, TV, please like me, no Jimmy Fallon, like.
I always think that the dislike button exists just to cause anxiety, pain on the part of the like actual content creators, because it doesn't serve any other purpose as far as we are concerned. No. It's just devastation. Why did this one person dislike? What's wrong with our content? Was it my face this week?
You never know, and you never will.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing, though, is if you never will, like, then don't try not to let it bother you.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
We have a guy, or here's the thing. It's like the Dread Pirate Roberts on our channel, where like when we first started, like nobody was watching. We had like 20 views and 1 dislike. And I'm like, somebody really has a problem with us. And it's been 7 years. And like within a few seconds of uploading, there's a dislike. And I don't know if it's like the most dedicated anti-fan ever, or if it's like we have this effect on people where somebody will be like, oh, I hate these guys so much. I have to subscribe. I have to follow them on social, and I have to make sure that they know that I dislike this. And I feel like there's no one that has that much hate in their heart to keep it going for 7 years.
Surprised.
But new blood every so often, and that's the sign of a good channel, I think, is that like we have new blood every so often. New people come in, and that new guy, because like here's the thing: 7 years ago, we incensed someone so badly they needed to like follow us around and keep clicking the dislike button on every video we made. But I don't think that he or she has that much tenacity to keep it going. But I do think that there are enough people like that every generation that we keep, because we always get that dislike.
Yeah,
and that's the mark of I think that's the mark of a healthy channel.
You ever watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer? Season 1, it used to start with, to every generation a Slayer is born.
Yes.
To every generation a disliker is born.
A disliker is born. Yes. Yes. If you're out there, if you're still like, that's, I think, a good sign that we're still out there. We're still reaching new people, because there are people who just, I've never heard of you. And I'm like, good. Welcome back. Welcome to the show. And I'm like, and I hate you. No, it's great.
Well, you haven't made it until you have haters, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? A lot of our audience, they're not YouTubers, so they're probably like, what the hell are these guys?
I don't care about any of the match. Yeah, talk about comic books.
We're gonna do that. We're definitely gonna talk about comic books, but I want to do it from the lens of your show.
Okay.
And what you guys have been interested in. So first of all, you've been reviewing, like we have, all the X stuff.
Yes.
And you guys started it. You did the Hoxpox back issues.
Yeah.
And that was awesome.
Thank you.
You did the Ten of Swords. You recently did the X Factor review, which of course, spoilers, but it's leading directly into the trial of Magneto. Right. So how have you been? I mean, I know how you've been feeling based on the reviews, but like, just discuss it anyways. How have you been feeling about what Marvel has been doing with the X-Men since Jonathan Hickman joined the team?
I mean, I think it's been an unmitigated success. I think that Hickman's influence on the X-Men is exactly what the franchise needed, because there was a weird time, when Marvel didn't regard the X-Men, but knew that they made the money, so they had to put them out there, but they had to walk this tightrope of like, make sure that whatever you do, you can do whatever you want as long as it isn't really successful.
Yeah.
Like just make some money, but don't make it a runaway success. Like don't blow people's minds, don't change anything or change everything and alienate the audience, whatever. Like, but don't, don't blow it up. And as a result, you got like a lot of really weird runs for the X-Men, but nothing so weird that it's like the 90s anymore. It's not like, I don't think there's anything that came from the X-Men franchise that's anything like Maggot or Bastion or X-Man. Like there's nothing that innovative or creatively bankrupt. But like right now it's like it's a concentrated initiative, but it's doing this amazing thing where like you feel when you're reading X-Men that you're part of something, not just a community of fans who like X-Men, but you also feel like you're part of like an inside track for some big thing that is coming. And even though they haven't really teased anything until Inferno, the things that have come about are still kind of big. Hellfire Gala, people were like, what is this? And listen, I think they really mishandled Hellfire Gala in terms of like, what issue is what? Like, how are you going to collect this thing? But it's still new. It's still something you haven't really seen from X-Men at all, or Big Two comics, honestly. Ten of Swords, same deal. It's like, wow, this is kind of big and cool. And it's over there. Like, it's not even, Moira's not even in the damn thing.
Yeah.
Like, what? And it's still huge. That's amazing. And then there's all the other titles that are swept up in it. And so there's a title for you. Like, if you have ever liked X-Men, there's a book for you. And that's like, that's so hard to do, especially because Hickman's not writing most of them. He used to write a couple of them, but now he's not writing, like, I think, any of them.
He's not. Yeah, he's not writing any.
And it's like, well, what the hell are you doing? And it's great because it means that the creatives that work there, like, there's this trust and there's this collaborations working so that like they can do what they want, because nobody wants to write a book under a banner that says another writer's going to tell you what to do or where it's going to go. And people like Teenie Howard and Jerry Duggan, like, they're big enough names where they're like, I don't want to have to be told what to do by Hickman. They're going to want to tell their stories, but they still seem to be able to tell their stories and yet make it work within an existing framework. So like, right. X-Men's been like innovative.
Yeah.
Yes, it absolutely has. And it's been super exciting to watch that whole thing unfold. You guys also accurately called the Scarlet Witch death.
Yeah, I mean, why would he call her?
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
But maybe not. Like, we haven't read, I don't think there's any issue of Trial of Magneto out yet, right? No. So like, we don't know anything. Like, we know the setup for Inferno. Trial of Magneto seems to come out of nowhere. I don't think it's anybody that I've been like really on the radar for with regard, like, who's writing. And I think it might be Inferno. Who's writing. Yeah, no, Trial of Magneto.
So it's actually Leah Williams is going to be writing it.
That's it. That's it. I like Leah Williams, but I don't like that. Doesn't like Leah Williams writing Trial of Magneto. I'm not like yes. You know what I mean? I'm kind of like, oh, okay. I guess that'll be cool. And it's like it's cool only really for me, like in practice, where it's like, wow, like before Inferno, there's going to be this thing. Like that's cool. But because it's leading into Inferno and because of the prelude with Mystique, it's Mystique. Did Mystique impersonate Magneto, call Wanda over and murder her? Did Magneto
call, yeah.
Right?
Like yes.
Right. Well, or because it would have been so easy at the top of the X-Men launch to reintegrate Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch into the mutants.
Yep.
But they didn't. And instead they went in the other direction where they're like, no, never forget House of X or House of M. And now it's like, well, did Magneto lure Scarlet Witch there under false pretenses? But actually he murdered her to prove that she is a mutant and she'll be resurrected.
Yep.
So there's these two pretty solid camps and I'm okay with both of them.
Yeah.
And that's kind of exciting too.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. It's been a lot of fun. And I haven't had the feeling about like, this feels like Civil War era Marvel, where, you were sitting on the message boards like, oh my God, Iron Man's a piece of shit. Or, oh my God, Captain America's a man baby. He doesn't understand real America.
Right.
This feels like that. Like, but what's so interesting too is that there's this other camp entirely that's like, you know what? I don't care about any of this. I don't like Jonathan Hickman's vision for the X-Men.
Yeah.
I don't like, XYZ writer, artist, whatever.
Yeah.
And they're just not into it. And that's been interesting to follow as well. The people were just like, this is not the X-Men to me.
Right. Oh no. And I get it. Like I get the criticism about like whether, about how this doesn't feel like X-Men, but you know what? You weren't reading X-Men before this anyway. And
that's true. Probably.
And furthermore, you'll read the big event and you'll love it. Like, you know what I mean? Like when Age of Apocalypse comes about, I'm calling it Age of Apocalypse. I feel like if Hickman called the last one Secret Wars, Apocalypse will be the big bad of the next event, and he's going to call it Age of Apocalypse. Because what is the event of X-Men that everybody wants to talk? Like everybody has an opinion about Age of Apocalypse. Like, you could talk about Mutant Massacre or the Executioner song or whatever, but like nothing gets people excited like referring to that. So
Dark Phoenix Saga.
Yeah, but Hickman hasn't had any access to the Phoenix at all. There's been no Phoenix.
Yeah.
And in fact, there's been all Phoenix in the Avengers run, which I think, which for those who are like X-Men, that's me in Avengers, where I'm like, Phoenix, Ghost Riders, Eternal, get out of here. Call me when Bendis comes back and writes New Avengers, because apparently that's the only thing it'll take to get me to read Avengers.
That's I'm glad you said that, because I also wanted to ask you, what is everyone has their like golden age of comics reading. For me, it's definitely that 2004, 5-ish Ultimate Spider-Man, New Avengers, Civil War. That's my comics.
Yeah.
What is it for you?
Probably the same. I've been reading comics for a very long time, and I like, now, like like decades removed from things like Nightfall, Death of Superman, stuff like that. Like I have kind of like this cheeky affinity for it. Where like I'll put up an Azrael Batman poster in my studio and kind of just be like, but there's, but I'm not going to reread it. Or if I do reread it, I'm like, this is pretty rough. And then there's stuff that I missed because I quit because they did too much stuff like that. Like I did not read No Man's Land because by the time it came out, I was already off the Batman train.
Yeah.
So I reread it. Like I literally reread all of it the other day, and I was like, this has some pretty awesome moments. And then it kind of goes off the rails, but it's still like the lead up and everything. I'm like, this is pretty amazing. So like, there's a lot of innovation that came during like my time that I like really appreciate. I still kind of miss the episodic Spider-Man of anything back then, but nothing was getting me reading regularly and unabashedly, like Bendis's New Avengers, Straczynski Spider-Man, Bendis's Ultimate Spider-Man, like that stuff, and the snowball of what Bendis was doing with New Avengers. Now it dovetailed directly into every event he wrote for the next like 10 years.
Yeah.
So smart, and it feels like X-Men, like where it's I'm setting up the breadcrumbs, I'm building stuff up, I'm referring to it later, and then I'll boom, big new event that has everything to do with that thing that you were reading about earlier. So this is the closest thing. I haven't seen anything like what they did in the early 2000s again in a long time. Like hell, that Moon Knight run by Charlie Houston was around that time, and it was friggin' amazing and crazy. Like just a nutso run. It was one of those things where I'm like, Moon Knight is a joke. And then I read that book and I'm like, oh, the joke's on me.
It's funny. We talk about this on the show a lot. The interconnectedness of comics at the big two, and whether or not that is alienating to newer readers, to what degree, and whether or not that's a problem.
Right.
And for me, and I definitely want to get your answer as well, I jumped into comics around that 2004 time, and I started with like, I don't know, Ultimate Spider-Man, like number 72 or something like that, right? And I didn't know what the hell was going on, but I was like, okay, this is cool. This is Spider-Man. I remember Human Torch was in that issue. It was just like awesome. And then New Avengers came around. I didn't know anything, but I was just like, I'm here for it. And here I am all these years later, huge comic book fan. Whereas a lot of people, especially nowadays, and I think the conversation about burnout really ramped up around, I want to say like Secret Invasion-ish time, where people were like, oh, there's too many events. And nowadays, I don't think that the Marvel universe looks, outside of the X-Men, looks anything like that.
No.
What is your feeling about, the interconnectedness of these universes? Is that something that we need more of, less of?
I've never had a problem with a shared universe. I like them, like I like Kevin Smith movies, or at least I have liked a lot of Kevin Smith movies. And as a kid, I was shown like Clerks, and I'm like, this is wow, blew my mind, changed my world. I'll get to comics in a second. But I saw Clerks, and I'm talking about it. I'm obsessed with it. I'm just such a fan. And I'm a kid, and an upperclassman is like, oh, well, if you like Clerks, it's set in the same universe as Mallrats, or maybe I watched Mallrats. I think I saw Mallrats because someone's like, oh, well, you'll like Mallrats. And I saw it in Jay and Bob Show back up. And the second I found out that it was an interconnected universe, my interest was doubled as a result. And I had to go find Chasing Amy. And then when Dogma comes out, I have to go watch Dogma. Jay and Bob Strike Back is a thank you for doing all that. And it also introduced me to things I normally probably wouldn't have sought out. Like the poster for Chasing Amy looks like 27 Dresses. It looks like Sliding Doors. It looks like every rom-com. It looks like You've Got Mail. It looks like garbage. Ben Affleck is the lead, and it's the back of a male extra. Like it's a horrible poster that is clearly trying to catch the rom-com thing. That movie ain't a rom-com. And it's also a movie I never would have seen if I hadn't known that it was part of the View Askew universe. The interconnected universe, the shared universe, is something that I love. I love the possibility of characters crossing over to the point where, like, I like Marvel DC crossovers because that's a fun idea.
Yeah.
And so the interconnected universe concept is not something that I find to be problematic, broken, or an issue. It's always ever about the story. It's always about like the intent and the story. If your intent is to make money first, it doesn't matter what you're getting. Like, I love crossovers, but like, there hasn't been a good Batman Daredevil crossover, and there are two of them. And they're both written clearly because they were told to write a Batman Daredevil crossover, not like Bendis' secret Batman Daredevil crossover that he has in a drawer that we'll never see. Like,
oh, wow, I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, Zdarsky wants to do one too, and he has one like in his head. He probably wrote it, and we'll never see them. And it's like, which one deserves to exist? The one that was written for money, or the one that was written because they had a story? But when it comes to the interconnected, like, shared universe concept, like, no, it's never been a problem. The problem is, the entry point for some folks. Some folks just can't wrap their head around it, or some folks just would rather have the titular character do their thing and move on and not have it be like a problem. When we did an episode of Back Issues just the other day, and it was about Batman, and it's a Batman story set in the 80s because it was written then. And basically Ethan, one of my co-hosts, is like, there's no way Superman wouldn't have gotten involved in this. And I'm like, you are thinking about this too directly. Like, you need to let that go. Like, it's not like when you're reading Batman, you don't think, where the hell's Superman? Right? Because you're reading Batman. You are surprised and delighted when Superman shows up, but you're not expecting him to show up and solve all of Batman's problems. If you have created a universe where that is the expectation, maybe you've gone off the beaten path. Mm-hmm. Like, I think that modern comics today are so interconnected that, like, you would expect them, but that's about story. It's all about story. It's just about writing. Like, if your story is well crafted enough and it's like engaging enough, you don't think about where the hell Superman is. His appearance is still a surprise. The interconnectivity of the universe is still a novelty when you are engaged in a story. Like, I remember seeing Spider-Man 2002 in the theater for the first time. Mm-hmm. And I'm with a whole bunch of comic book nerds, and we're watching this movie, and Spider-Man is stuck holding the children and whatever. He's doing the thing. He's suspended, and Green Goblin's going to get him. And then this red thing comes out of nowhere and hits him in the head. And I swear at least 3 of us thought Daredevil showed up. We're like, oh! Yeah. And then it turned out to be New York personified.
New Yorkers. Yeah.
Bravo. You mess with one of us, you mess with all of us.
Yes.
Thanks. Hilarious. I mean, listen, it was right after 9/11. I get it. We were all kind of hurting. That moment, I was not in New Jersey when I saw that, and people still cheered.
Oh yeah. I mean, that was
like, all right.
That was as Pete always loves to say, that was a watershed moment.
Yes.
For the country post 9/11.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because people say even today when they watch some of these comic book movies, like, oh, well, where's Thor? Like, yeah, Thor's gonna come to New York when Spider-Man's fighting the Vulture,
right?
And be like, okay, let me just smack him with my hammer one time,
yeah,
and you can go back to bed, kid. That's not the spirit of this stuff.
Thor's never even met Spider-Man.
Is that
in those movies?
True. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
But it's like, like your point is no less valid. It makes exact sense. Like, yeah, like it's about Spider-Man, or it's about Thor, or it's about Captain America. It's not about that, Yeah.
Do you think that expectation and that sort of thought process is sort of a symptom of the sort of realism that comics and comics movies have sort of tried to dig into here in the past couple of decades?
I guess so. I mean, like, the problem, a big problem is just, people's expectations of things to be real while also forgiving things that are totally not, like, oh, it's not realistic when this happens. I'm like, well, he was bitten by a radioactive spider and he has spider power. Like, please explain the complicated ability. Like, explain how he's able to stick through his pants. Like, how he can stick through his shoes. Like,
right.
Are they little fibers? Like, are they little legs? I don't care. I'm not asking for that. I'm not here for that. But I'm here to suspend disbelief and to be engaged. I think that, it's funny. I was just thinking about, I was just showing somebody Dark Knight Returns for the first time. He'd never even heard of it. And he's in his 30s. But like, the concept of Dark Knight Returns is the concept of like the gritty, real character. When it becomes ubiquitous with the culture, you have to take a step back, right? Because like then your audience's expectations are changed. You know, like you need a reality where Batman is doing the Bat-2C on TV. He's with Robin doing, fighting the Penguin in the comics. He's on the silver screen in a suit he can't move his neck in, and then you get Dark Knight Returns and you're like, oh my God, like this is nothing like what I've seen. But if it's the only thing you've seen, like I remember being so annoyed when Jim Lee like refused to stop drawing Batman in the regular monthly book as just Dark Knight Returns Batman. It's like the same color suit, no emblem, all the same attitude, it's just like, dude, you need contrast, or it's just all Dark Knight Returns. It's all the gritty, real, miserable stuff. Yeah. And by the way, DKR is not real, but like people go like, well, it's miserable, it's miserable and gritty, like real life. It's like,
oh, you got me there.
Right. It's like, dude, like, first of all, go outside, like, be happy, find some joy. But realism has certainly, it's to blame. Expectation of realism is to blame for a lot of like problems in the industry, or in comics and comic enjoyment. But yeah, I don't know.
Speaking of comic enjoyment, another thing that comes up for us a lot is the state of the industry as it relates to kind of like, especially with the big two. And I feel like this is a point at which, at least for me personally, I've never, outside of the X-Men, been less interested in what is happening at Marvel and DC. And I try to have some perspective on that. Like, okay, I'm not 15 years old. I'm not, I've seen a lot more things now than I had then. So, sure. And I also kind of know how the sauce is made. It's not as exciting, right?
Right.
But at the same time, if you ask me, are they telling stories that are as good now as they were then? I would say no. And I'm just talking about the big two. I'm not talking about all of comics. I think in other spaces, comics are better than ever.
Right.
How do you feel about that? Do you feel like comics stories from the big two are as engaging, as penetrative as they've ever been? Or do you feel like we're kind of on a downswing right now? Where are you at with that?
I hesitate to suggest that comics today are not better than they were 25, 30 years ago. I think that's comparing apples and oranges, because like the world is different, the industry is different, the readership is different, the competition is different. But that being said, the comics that are good are better than they've been. And the comics that are not are still better than the worst. You know what I mean? Like Marvel in the 90s was churning out Marvel and DC were churning out a lot of garbage in the 90s. But Vertigo existed. But Alex Ross was doing Marvels with Busiek.
Right.
Well, you know what I mean? But our examples of the best stuff from the 90s are Sandman and Kingdom Come, Marvels. You could count on probably two hands the most innovative and incredible big two comics. But how many great books every year do the big two produce where you're like, did you know about this? You know what I mean? Like, just from Black Label alone, whether you like Batman Damned or not, you have to agree that the book is it's trying something, and it's producing art, and it started an international conversation about art, and a bunch of people making a lot of dick jokes.
Yes,
but you got that going on. You've got Daniel Warren Johnson showing up and setting the industry on fire.
Oof.
You've got Strange Adventures. You've got Zdarsky's Daredevil, which just like, amazing. It's just like I remember Daredevil should be. And Daredevil has never been bad. It has been bad. But like, consistently speaking, like Charles Soule's run's not bad. Mark Waid's run's not bad. It might not be your cup of tea, but you can't be like, oh, it's terrible. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, hell, even Valiant's making great books.
Even Valiant.
You know what I mean? Like, I was just saying, like, when I was growing up, Valiant was like, oh, I'm not reading that, you know?
Right.
But Shadow Man is a dope ass book and it looks good, you know? And it's like, oh, you know, everybody is firing on all cylinders. Boom Studios was a licensed property. It was like an IDW.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they come out with Something's Killing the Children and Once and Future. And we only find them when they're dead. Oh, not to mention over on DC when they're making Black Label books like The Nice House on the Lake. Like indie comics are blowing the doors off. And they're doing it in a way where when we were reading comics or when we were regularly reading comics and the industry was doing pretty well for Marvel and DC, they were like, oh, we'll go. It's just like the Hollywood formula. The Hollywood formula was, well, we'll give, you know, our stable of directors a script and they'll make the same thing they've been making for 20 years. And people wonder why like attendance was down. But then what they did was they went to Sundance and they grabbed all these indie filmmakers. And first of all, they bought their movie, they put it out, blew people's minds, and then forced those young independent directors to make big $200 million blockbuster movies. Comic books are the exact same thing. They were like, no one's buying Thor. Let's just go get somebody from over there, you know, or nobody's buying Spider-Man. Let's get somebody from over there. So they go to the independent scene and they grab all these independent creators and they throw them at big creators or big names, you know, character names. And then suddenly you get innovative new ideas. It's not that's why I always argue with people who are like, you know, this character sucks. And I'm like, listen, there's some characters who suck. Like, you know, like Gunfire, whose ability is to make anything that he touches into a gun.
What? Where's this character from? Who is
he's a DC character. He had his own series.
Yeah, of course he is. A DC ass character.
Right? But like, yeah, he sucks. But at the very least, Tom King could make him sad and kill him on like in a big splash page. But there are no, you know, for me, there's no bad characters. There's only like lazier writers. People who are like, well, I can't do anything with that character. Really? You can't? Well, then give it to somebody who will. Because there's somebody who's desperate to tell their story or make their mark, and they will take that character and do something new and innovative. And I've seen that so many times. And like between the like mid 90s and the early 2000s, I don't have a lot of, there are examples, but I don't have like an example every year of innovative creative people who are doing books that are like moving people to tears, you know, just randomly, like look at the Green Arrow 80th anniversary book and the Denny O'Neil story. Like just, oh, and that's in a Green Arrow cash grab. Well, we can charge $10 for that. We don't care that he turned 80, but we do care about charging $11 for a comic book. No. So here you go. And yet it ends up being great. You know, I hated Tom King's run, but the dude's moved me to tears. He wrote one of the best Superman stories in years with Up in the Sky. Bendis, you know, brings me in through Ultimate Spider-Man, blows my mind with that character that I love and know everything about, shows me some new stuff, then goes to DC, underwhelms me across the board, that makes Batman Universe. I'm back in. Like these are innovative and terrific times, and there's never been a better time for creators to come in and make their mark. I think comics are as good, if not better, than they've ever been. And it's just statistically speaking, you know, do I still feel the same level of wonder, you know, that I did when I was a kid? Sometimes, which is kind of remarkable because most folk don't. You know what I mean? Like people ask me if I burn out because when we do our reviews, you know, I'm harsh or I'm flippant, and people are like, "Oh, this guy's burned out," and I'm like, "No," and I know I'm not because I still read comics and I'm still surprised. You know, like I'm not right every time I do a prediction, and I'm thrilled by that because it means that the comic book industry isn't stale. It means that I can still be surprised, and these creators can still like do something awesome with characters that were old when I started reading. I you know what I mean? Like I've never seen a book like Strange Adventures before, and it's amazing. Like Wonder Woman, Dead Earth. What? Just
Danny Warren Johnson.
Danny Warren Johnson, right? Thank you, Mark.
Absolutely, yeah. No, that's a brilliant answer, and I think you're right in the sense that you know, for me, there was a time where it felt like every book I picked up, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. This is so
Yes.
But that has to be looked at and juxtaposed with the fact that I'm 30 now,
Right.
It's not the same. It's like, okay, yeah, wow, Spider-Man died. I'm shocked.
Right.
Unbelievable. Right.
Right.
Wow.
No, that's not very interesting. Like, if you tell me Spider-Man dies or he gets a new costume, yeah, get in line. I've never, you're never gonna get me by telling me that,
right?
But if you tell me that, like, Peter J. Tomasi and Patrick Gleason are gonna do the Death of Spider-Man, picking that up, right?
Yeah,
because I know they have something to say.
So we're running out of time,
right?
But I want to ask you some really quick questions.
I'll try to keep it brief. I know I tend to.
I'm gonna just fire off.
All right, sweet.
All right. So, physical or digital?
I regularly buy digital, but I like buying physical too.
Yes.
Oh,
excellent.
Come on,
I
Sean,
do. I'm sorry. Month to
Sean,
month,
you can't win.
Month to month, I do buy digital, but sometimes I'm like, I must have this.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: I don't buy Black Label books in digital because I have to own it, because it's usually if it's an oversized or if it's a double page or if it's something like that, or if I started buying it when it was physical, I don't switch over. Like Strange Adventures, I'm buying physical because I started that way. But like Zdarsky's Daredevil, for example, I read that digitally, and then I went, I need to get #1 before this is gone. So I had to go out and buy it. So I'll do that. But it's really selective.
I thought I had an ally in this battle.
Sorry,
fight this war every week.
Why? What's your pleasure?
100% physical. And I saw that massive bookshelf behind you. I'm like, okay, Sal's my guy.
Yes. Well, these are trades, but I do have an insane library of floppies that I'm literally in the process of integrating probably 300 new books into 28 long boxes, and I'm just like, and they're all alphabetized because I'm a lunatic. And I'm literally going to a comic book sale when we're done with this. There's a $1 sale at my local comic book store, and I have to go to it. And I'm probably going to buy like $100 worth of comic books. And that's physical. So trust me, I offset. I'm like the physical industry is not dying because of me.
Okay. All right. Yes. Keep it alive. Thank you very much. I'm glad for that. Marvel or DC?
Wow. I think I'm regularly buying more DC right now.
Nice.
Okay.
That's not an answer, but I will say I'm buying more DC than I am buying Marvel right now.
I'm pretty confident that the answer for you shifts and waxes and wanes.
Yeah.
Just like all the rest of us. Unless there are those people who are just like, I will always be a DC or I will always be a Marvel, but there are those of us.
Yeah. That's too close to a dogmatic belief system, which I am vehemently against. No. It's like when in Dogma, or it's like, do you believe? No, but I have a good idea. Ideas can be changed, but people die for beliefs. No.
Image or Boom?
Boom is crushing Image right now.
Big statement.
Okay, all right.
Name 3 books that are doing better or more critically acclaimed right now that Image is putting out that beat Killing the Children, We Only Find Them Where They're Dead, and Once and Future.
Well, and Power Rangers, obviously.
Oh, naturally, yes, and Power Rangers, of course. Although, Shattered Grid really, it never got better.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
You know what? Can't do it.
Right? And by the way, that should be a kick in the pants for Image. Image should be like, we shouldn't be being beaten by Boom Studios.
Yeah.
At our own game.
I'm with you. I am absolutely with you. Batman or Superman?
Superman.
Ooh, Phil would have liked that.
If you'd asked me 20 years ago, I would have said Batman.
Yeah, what?
The older I get, the more I it's easy to love Batman. Batman makes it easy, right? And he means everything to everybody. But the older you get, the more I need Superman.
Pro registration or anti?
In the real world, pro registration.
Yes.
Because are you kidding me?
Let's go.
That's my same answer.
There is no there. Steve Rogers isn't real. If he were real and he came to my house and he made me feel bad, I'd be anti-registration. But I know there isn't. I'm sorry, Steve.
Avengers or Justice League?
Avengers.
Yes.
Oh, that's insane. How dare you?
What?
Not the current Avengers, but not the current Justice League either. That book is
rough.
You got me there.
Rough stuff.
I would rather read about the Avengers than I would read about the Justice League.
Oof.
And last question as it relates to ComicPop, your favorite interview that you guys have done?
Oh, that's not fair. There's so many we've done that I'm so proud of.
Absolutely.
I if I had a list, maybe I could like probably whittle it down, but there are so many that are incredible.
He hasn't had us on yet.
Yeah, that's true. It hasn't happened yet.
Next.
Yeah. The fabled Alan Moore interview. No.
You guys did Chip Zdarsky.
Chip Zdarsky's amazing. He's so fun. Tom King's great. Scott Snyder's amazing. We had a Garth Ennis on. That one was one of my hardest.
Yeah. We had a Garth Ennis, and he was fun.
Yeah, he's fun. He's tough. He did not want to do that show.
No, I don't think he wanted to do ours, especially either.
He was like, we opened the show. I don't mind talking about this because he's never going to see it or care.
Yeah,
but he was like, not that he wouldn't watch the channel, but just he doesn't.
He would.
It's not like Garth's like, oh, what are my favorite YouTube channels? I'm gonna check them out. But I was like, oh, Garth, by the way, this is gonna be more conversational. I really don't want to turn this into an interview. Like, you've done a million interviews. Like, I just want to kind of like whatever you want to do, wherever you want to go. Just take it. Because yeah, right. I got it. And I'm like, okay, Garth Ennis. Like, and I asked him a question. He was like, right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay, we're gonna do it like this.
All right, those teeth, man.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, Hitman. Yeah, he was fun. Would you ever do anything with Tommy Honecan again? Sure.
Can I tell our experience, Sean?
Please. Yeah.
So we were specifically told that he did not want to talk about anything other than his upcoming war comics.
Right.
And we were like, okay, cool, great, no problem.
Yeah.
And so Sean starts off by listing sort of the accomplishments of the boys and the other stuff that he's done. And he says, how does that feel? And not only did I watch Garth tense up, my butthole clenched. I was like, we had one job,
right? Not to mention those things. Yeah. Look, Ennis has to know.
Yeah, right.
We're gonna at least mention people need to get the context. I don't know.
I mean,
come on.
Yeah.
He stayed, right? He didn't go
right.
Whoop room.
No,
over. Like
it was a great interview, but it's like I gotta mention the boys. Like it's the boys. This is an extremely popular show. Like I have to.
Literally, it's literally buying it bought your house, Garth. Give it,
listen,
smile and get over it.
We had to read those war comics.
Oh yeah.
To be able to talk to you, you're gonna let me mention the boys real quick.
Right.
Okay? It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. The Sarah was amazing.
Sarah's great. Sarah's excellent. I like the tankies. I don't know about you guys. I had fun.
It was cool. No, I'm not. I didn't say that to denigrate the boys. I'm just saying, I would like to talk about the boys.
Right. Exactly.
For a second.
Right. Yeah. Just for a minute, man. Come on. Like,
exactly.
Yeah. I literally I don't think I mentioned Preacher outside of just being like, I alluded, like I referenced it in context of something else, but I really want to talk about like Preacher.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there's a lot of, I've talked to so many different creators. Josh Williamson is amazing. I mean, like, it's more just like, I like these guys now. Like they're cool, like they're just fun to talk to. DeMatteis has been on twice and he's amazing too. God, I know I'm leaving somebody out. Oh, Todd McFarlane came on twice.
That's incredible.
Whoa.
Which, for a kid who read at least the first 100 issues of Spawn and bought physical, that was a dream come true. That was Bendis was on the show. That was amazing too. Getting Bendis on the show and getting to talk to him is cool.
I've been trying to interview Bendis for like 7 years.
I have one creator that I absolutely will not talk to, and that's Grant Morrison. I can't do it. I know that if I ever approach Grant Morrison,
you'd cry.
And not even cry. I just I'll lock up.
Yeah.
I'll fall stone, and I lived in Glasgow for a minute, and I had the chance to get Flex Mentallo signed.
Nice.
I gave it to a friend, and I said, I have an errand to do. I'm going to go do this.
You wouldn't go and meet them?
I'm going to go do this errand. You have to take this and get it signed. I cannot do it.
Oh. You met him?
I met Grant. Now, you can't see it, but I actually have a shrine to Grant Morrison off on the side. Nice. I am in the least nuts way possible. I'm obsessed with Grant Morrison and their work. Batman, their Batman is it's what lit my fire for comics.
There you go.
More than anything that I had read prior. Everything else was cool, but that was like, oh my God, this is something special. Yeah. This is a part of my life. So when Phil and I met them, I cried. I told them, you can't possibly understand what your books did for me, and it's such a special thing. And Grant said, I do actually know exactly what you're talking about, because when I create with that in mind. They said, there is this interconnectedness, almost like a hive mind of fans and of people who are passionate about this, and I'm writing towards that. And when I heard that, I lost it. I just couldn't believe, that was exactly what I needed to hear. And it was just such an amazing moment. And that's awesome. I love that you brought up how, cool these creators are, because across the board, with very, very, very few exceptions, every experience that I have had has been way positive, and inspiring and cool. And that's the best thing about comics. Amen. Is that despite the fact that on Twitter, it feels like every other day we're reading about someone who's a jerk, the large majority of these creators are great, special people who want nothing more than to tell their stories. And we want nothing more than to read them.
That's right.
And it's beautiful.
That's right. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Hell, I met Frank Miller, and he is awesome.
That's cool.
Super friendly, super kind. I mean, not that you wouldn't expect it, but everybody, they're all amazing. It's just, it's been very rare and very seldom that anybody's even rude, and even then, the rudeness is as opposed to getting mad.
Right. Well, off air, I could tell you some stories, but
that's fair.
I before we let you go, I want to give you the opportunity. Every single week here, we do Pals Pulls, which is a segment where we try. It's a segment where we talk about the books that are coming out this week that we are excited about, and you guys do your recommendations at the end of your reviews. So I wanted to give you the opportunity to bring a little flavor of that over here and do Pals Pulls with us. So I'll let you do yours, and then we'll let you off the hook.
Thank you.
So you chose Strange Adventures number 11.
Obviously, I mean, I cited it a lot. It was in front of me the whole time, so I was using that as an example. But yes, Strange Adventures number 11, the penultimate issue of Strange Adventures, the series, of course, from Tom King, Mitch Gerads, and Evan Shaner. This book is just so great, and we're almost done. And when it's done, it's hardcovers, softbacks, posters, movie deals. It's going to be, people are going to read this and it's just going to blow their mind. It's the Manchurian Candidate in comic book form. I wouldn't recommend reading it now. If you were going to go get it, I wouldn't read this first. I'd buy Strange Adventures number 11 and then go back and buy 1 through 10 and then read it all at once. And then you can feel what I feel when I wait every effing 2 months for the next issue.
Yep. Every 2 months.
Yeah.
You also chose, as I did, Beta Ray Bill number 5.
Goat.
It's over. This is the last one. The finale from Daniel Warren Johnson and colorist Mike Spicer. This daring duo has been telling my favorite horse Thor story of all time. The only downside to this series is that it is not an oversized. Having read and enjoyed Wonder Woman Dead Earth and getting the big book, Beta Ray Bill deserves a big book, and Marvel's not beyond doing it, because Marvel did that Loki series that I love from Rod Rhodey and Asad Ribic. They reprinted it in this big, beautiful, oversized hardcover. Beta Ray Bill, you know what to do, Marvel. You make this big, because that's what this book is. It's that the best thing I can say about Beta Ray Bill is it's big and it's over. So, I hope they don't ruin it by making it into an ongoing. Just have D-Dubs come in when he has a dope ass story to tell, give him 5 issues or 6, and let him go nuts.
Yep.
Completely agreed. And then last but absolutely not least, Daredevil 32.
Yeah. Chip Zdarsky, this might be, I said this the last episode that we reviewed it or talked about it. Mike Hawthorne, I think he's leaving the book on this issue. And so this is the last time Mike Hawthorne will be drawing it. I don't know who they're bringing in for the next one. Obviously, Marco Cicchetto was the one who put this book on the map. His covers are second to none. His interiors equally so. Mm-hmm. But I feel that if Cicchetto had never done it, I feel like if Cicchetto had never been on the book, it would still be hailed as a critical success, and it would still be beloved because Hawthorne's work is good. Hawthorne does good work. But yeah, this is just a great series, and I love it. It's not even anything major or epic or crazy is happening. It's just it's just more of the same for poor Daredevil. Although the setup from the last issue of what the status quo for Bullseye, can't wait to see Elektra, Daredevil, and Bullseye fight.
Man, awesome. Elektra Daredevil is one of the most unique concepts for Daredevil in years. It feels so fresh to me.
And yet, no duh,
right?
Yeah. I can't believe I when it happened for me, it was such a easy, smooth transition. I was right. And I didn't even think to get it in physical because I bought it digitally, and I had the first issue. I'm good. But and then it blew the hell up, and everybody was buying it up. They're like, yes. And I'm like, what is this? This is innovative. I mean, I feel like it's just kind of the natural progression of the story, but okay. So yeah, no, it's thrilling. And the suit, just looks great.
I love the baton pass of pain that writers do with Daredevil, where they're just okay, what's the worst thing we can do short of kill him, which that has happened too, and then leave him there for the next person.
Yes.
I love it. It's beautiful. And I can't wait to see where Chip leaves this character. And all the characters that he's been playing with over the course of these 32 issues, because it has been brilliant. Yeah. And, one of the best things that I think is coming out of either Marvel or DC.
Agreed. Yeah. And what's great is it's not selling great. And I say that because it's probably around 30,000 copies, which is not enough to cancel it, but not enough for Marvel to mess it up.
Interesting.
It's sold.
No King in Black crossovers or anything.
No, well, it had that. No, it was not. The thing is, it didn't sell well enough to be immune from the King in Black crossovers, but we got those, and it still was cool. But no, if this pulled Immortal Hulk numbers, Marvel would be like, okay, well, let's see what we're doing. No, right. No. Just stay where you are. Because here's the thing: all those the creative team on Daredevil, all they want to do is keep making more Daredevil. Yeah. So if we just keep them paid, it's a tightrope, but I think we can make it.
Well, we made it to the end of our time with Sal. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Lending your comic expertise to our podcast. We are humbled by you coming on board. It's been a pleasure.
I had a blast, man. Mark, I'm sorry I didn't let you talk at all, but I do appreciate you being, so magnanimous as to let me just kind of steamroll the entire show. Kale, I really appreciated all your insight. Thank you so much for letting me on. And Sean, of course, excellent hosting as usual. Good stuff. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me and introduce me to the pallies out there.
We're gonna have to adopt the name.
We're gonna have to figure out.
Yeah. Well, maybe we should ask the Palsulation.
I think that's a good idea. Whatever that might be.
Yeah, Pals Nation. I like that. Before you go, do you want to leave the people with your plugs? Let them know where they can find you.
Yeah, why not? Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to subscribe to multiple channels, you are in for a treat. I've got two of them for you. The first one is youtube.com/ComicPop. ComicPop Prime, the main channel where Back Issues is hosted. You can find that over there. Or if you like this kind of show, of course you do. You're watching the show right now. You might enjoy our live streams over on ComicPop Returns, which if you just type in ComicPop Returns, you'll find it. We make a show called Off the Rack where we do comic book reviews. Elseworlds Exchange, where we take one topic, break it down for about an hour, and more. All the other stuff. Like if you're a fan, or if you become a fan of Comic Pop, go over to Returns. You're gonna be in for a treat. You're gonna get unboxings of letters and packages we get, and more. So check us out there.
And on social.
Oh yeah, I'm Sal Says What on Twitter, and you can, if you like Instagram, you can go to Comic Pop Official and check out all the behind the scenes and TikTok videos that I cannibalize from over there and put them on Instagram. And if you are a TikToker, you can go to Comic Papa and you follow me over there.
Love it.
Thank you.
Highly recommend you guys go and subscribe to both channels. They are awesome. Comic Pop is doing some really cool stuff. They have a very fun dynamic over there, and I think you guys will enjoy it. So if you like this, definitely check them out. You won't be disappointed. Thank you again so much, Sal, for joining us. Hopefully we can do this again sometime.
Absolutely.
And take care.
My pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Thanks again to Sal for joining us. That was super cool. Yeah, again, like, you guys should definitely tune into what they're doing over there. It's a lot of fun. And if you are new to us from them, hello, thank you for joining us. And we're gonna have a blast the rest of the episode. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about. We're gonna be talking about the announcement of Leslie Grace as Batgirl, what is now happening with Michael B. Jordan's Black Superman project that came up and then vanished from the news a little while ago, and James Gunn saying that superhero films are boring now. We're going to tackle all that and more, but we're going to continue now with the Pals polls. Of course, Sal led us off with his picks, but we're going to shift over to Marco, aka Mark, who chose The Last Book You'll Ever Read, #1. What is that?
So this is a Vault book. Vault's been putting out some pretty good stuff recently with a couple really cool creators. This one in particular is written by Cullen Bunn, art by Layla Lays, and it's a Bunn book. I'm a Bunn boy. Like if he puts something out, I'm more than likely going to pick it up. It looks to be interesting. I'm going to read the blurb really quick. Civilization is a lie. Hidden deep in our genes is the truth, and it is slowly clawing its way to the surface. Olivia Cade knows the truth, and she has become a prophet of the coming collapse. Her book, Satyr, is an international bestseller, and it is being blamed for acts of senseless violence and bloodshed all over the world. Olivia's own life is in danger for those who have read her book. Determined to conduct a book tour, she hires security professional Connor Wilson to act as her bodyguard. She has only one requirement. He cannot read her work. But, all right, interesting. Bunn's a very, I think, a successful writer when he's in his element, which is usually like horror, and this very much feels like a horror book. So I'm gonna pick it up.
Awesome. I might try this. I've been wanting a way back into Bunn. I picked up Basilisk, which we talked about. Mm-hmm. It was cool, but it got way overshadowed by Nice House coming out that same week.
Yeah,
just blowing it out of the water in terms of just being better. So I'm going to try this one. Hopefully no other ridiculously good horror book comes out this week. You also chose Monolith #3.
So Monolith is put out by Magnetic Press, and I've been picking up a lot of their books. They're usually sort of reprints of European albums. And so they segment them and sort of turn them from these larger formats to individual issues, a little bit longer size, different formats. So it's interesting to sort of read them and view them. This one in particular is written by Roberto Recchioni and Mauro Uzio, and the art's by LRNZ, which I'm assuming is Lorenzo or Lorenz. And this book is about a smart car and how it is protecting a wife and daughter who leave their husband. They're going through like a bad breakup, or in the process of potentially divorcing. And I'm usually interested by Magnetic Press books. They've impressed me in the past. Aster Pan is one that I can think of immediately that I really enjoyed. So I'm willing to give these books a chance. It's different. It's a different art style, very digital. The writing is European, so it feels like a film, like sort of like an art house film. And he expresses that he had tried to get this produced as a movie, and it didn't work for a couple years. The rights returned back, so he's producing this as a comic, and it's been really enjoyable. It's been fun. It's interesting, and they in Europe the concept of comics are a bit different, so they treat it differently, and I enjoy the difference that we typically see in storytelling and art. And so if you're interested in this and exploring something a little bit different, Aster of Pan for sure is it something you should pick up, or Monolith so far.
Have you read the other 2 issues of this?
Yes. Yeah.
Is it from the point of view of the car?
No. So it's like they're like a character, basically. You're out?
Hey, if it's not from the point of view of the car, I don't know. No, thanks.
All right.
You almost had me.
Fair enough. Kale, though, is into Look Back. What's that?
So this is a book from the creator of Chainsaw Man, Tatsuki Fujimoto.
Ooh.
And it's diametrically opposed to Chainsaw Man. It's a very quiet, contemplative book. Little to no violence. It's a manga about creating manga and the isolation of creation. It's a real quick read. It's only a one shot, but it's a very powerful, emotional book that sort of gives a view into what it's like to rise in popularity as a creator, and then realize that no matter what, you have to keep going. And it's a really powerful read, and I would highly recommend it. It's on Shonen Jump right now. I think it came out as kind of a surprise. Nobody really knew that it was going to happen. And
yeah, I thought that when they had announced it, I thought it was that other one shot for Chainsaw Man that they'd been talking about. So I thought it was that.
So did I.
Okay.
But I absolutely loved it.
And then you and I both chose Static #2.
Static for me was the first issue was what I wanted out of Children of the Atom, which almost isn't a fair comparison because it's
wow.
It's a book about a high schooler who gets superpowers, and it affects his life. And the ending to Static #1 leaves it on a dope cliffhanger. Like, it sucks, but man, do I want to read issue #2. The art is incredible. What's
Nicholas Draper Ivy?
Yes. Incredible. Yeah, I can't wait to see where this guy he goes, but also what he does now.
Yeah, absolutely. The book's been great. I love the first one tremendously. It was the best Vita Ayala I've ever read, and that was cool because I've been wanting to find my way in with Vita. I just couldn't really get into any of their other the Marvel stuff that they've done so far. It just wasn't for me. But this was it. So I'm with you, man. I'm super hyped. And I can't wait to see where Static goes. I hope that this is the book that brings Static back into the public eye to where we can finally get the movie, or the TV show in live action or whatever. Like with where things are now, especially with like HBO Max and things like that, I feel like Static is a shoo-in for a project. So I'm really hopeful.
This book's gonna have to do a little bit more work for me. I feel like I was down on the first issue, so I'm interested to see where they go, but it definitely has to hook me in still.
Okay, fair enough. Well, they've got time because I think we know this is season 1. I don't know if we know how many issues season 1 will be, but I would imagine that they're going to have at least 10,
12 issues maybe.
Yeah, a run, decent run. We're doing things in the reverse order that we typically do. Normally, we would do the listener comments out the gate, but we're gonna have to shift over into those now. So yeah, let's dive into what you guys had to say this week in our comments section. Kill, do you wanna start us off?
Absolutely. So this first one is a YouTube comment from Catastrophic Cat on episode 240, the Demon Slayer outsells the comics industry episode. Cat says the Japanese business model for selling graphic novels is far superior to anything else. However, it wasn't the only factor, as comics have stopped hiring creatives based on merit, it seems.
Lols. I feel like if anything with our conversation with Sal, like I don't think that latter point's true. I'm definitely in line with the fact that we're picking up people all over this, like from all over the place. And Kate Jemison from the novel space, Ram B coming in from doing indie work. It's not for lack of finding talent, but I think there seems to be like a perception about there seems to be a perception about the fact that like comics are in a decline consistently. And I feel like sometimes people use the sales volume as an indicator, whereas when you're comparing manga and the comics industry, it's a bit of an unfair comparison in terms of volume. That they're not. That's definitely a different conversation. And if you're using that as your basis of merit, maybe go pick up a book.
Yeah, I mean, the idea that they don't hire creatives based on merit is just odd. Like, why would Marvel or DC not hire creatives based on their skill set? Like, you may not like them, right? Like, for example, I haven't found my way in with Leah Williams yet.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that Leah Williams can't write. Obviously, Leah Williams has an audience. Leah Williams has fans, or Leah Williams would not be writing for Marvel. That idea is just ridiculous. Like, they're not looking to hire people on anything other than that. Like, I guess what you're implying is because Leah's a woman, or because of because Ta-Nehisi Coates is a black person who's a writer, whatever. Like, that's just not the case. Like, maybe Nehesi Coates got hired because of his work outside of comics, but that's because they're a good writer outside of comics,
right.
Like, it's not because it wouldn't make sense to do it for any other reason. So yeah, I can't vibe with that.
And not for nothing, my wife was an editor at one of the big publishing companies, and I couldn't get a job. And this company has way worse people involved who would have done exactly that. So that can't be true.
I mean, unless Marvel just has a checklist, like, okay, we got our black, we got our Hispanic, we got our non-binary, we got like, I don't believe that.
I don't either. However, it wouldn't surprise me that somewhere high up in a drawer in a corner office somewhere,
the checklist exists.
Yeah.
Like, is there an initiative? Is there a desire to find writers and artists who aren't just white guys? Yes, no doubt about that, of course. But that doesn't mean that they're picking up lesser people because they're not that. But let's move on. Thank you for your comment. We appreciate that. Marco, you want to take the next one?
Yes. So this comes from Snake of Talons on our Loki episode 6 review. I know very little about Kang, so your review was very helpful for me. The episode left me feeling like I can't believe I have to wait for more, but the Kang stuff has me hype that they're setting up a villain so hard. I can't wait to see where this all goes. I can also not wait to see where this goes because Kang's interesting. I also know very little, so I think the fact that the show introduced them in such a way that made it really make sense and made it make sense for a season 2 for Loki, for it expanding into the larger universe. I thought that was really well done. So yeah, I'm equally on board for whatever they pull out next, especially as it relates to this character and future movies.
I'm with you. It's super exciting. I'm happy, Snake, that we were able to provide, some context for you for that character, because I think that there are a lot of people who are in that space, because Kang is really not a character who's done much in the last 20 years. Like Kang's last like major story was in Uncanny Avengers by Rick Remender, and that was super cool. At least the last story that I was really like aware of. He's probably appeared, but he hasn't really been a part of a lot of late. He's getting a solo series soon, so we will be seeing more Kang in the comics. But if you're a reader who is not familiar with like 80s, 90s Marvel, then Kang is not relevant to you. So yeah, I'm glad that worked out, and I can't wait for more for sure. Jonathan Majors did a great job.
Yeah, he really did.
Snake, though, also left a comment on our episode 247 and said, "Oh my God, I'm dying. You guys tore that commenter to shreds." That is in reference to the comment that was left that was, anti-LGBT. And, we kind of took him to task. I'm glad that was funny for you. Of course, we want to bring humor to situations like that. I had to do it. I don't know, like, let me know if you guys think that was too far, but I felt that, like if you're going to write in with that kind of opinion, then you've got to, we got to give it to you.
You got to take your abuse.
This last one comes from Gareth on our Superman and the Authority, Moon Knight, and Jupiter's Requiem reviews. We did that with Tyler, who is going to be joining us as a regular co-host on our review stuff. And also, don't forget, we're going to be, well, I guess for you guys it will have passed, but Journey to Quizchery is our new game that Tyler created and came up with and is doing with us. The first episode of that will have dropped yesterday. If you're listening to this on Monday, we're streaming it live on Sunday. So obviously, if you're hearing me, it's too late for you to tune in live, but you can catch the VOD, and we will be doing this with regularity. So make sure that you check in to find out when the next one will be. It should shake out to be a monthly thing. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So definitely do give that a listen. But continuing on with Garrett's message. Hey, pals, new watcher, gave you a like and sub. Tiny hint. In the constructive sense, please be respectful of Grant's pronoun choices. Anywho, I had never read an issue of Moon Knight until this week, but picked it up just as a trial run. Enjoyed it so much I recommended it to a mate who picked up a copy and enjoyed it too. Not without its flaws, but a good issue for new/curious readers. Cheers, lads. Thank you. Really appreciate the like and sub. That means a lot. And I hope that you enjoy what you hear beyond just that particular review. I am sorry about messing up Grant's pronouns. I know I did it once and Tyler did it once in that episode. It's not something that we're doing deliberately. I can speak for myself and say that I've been aware of Grant for a really long time. I spoke earlier in this episode about how important Grant is to me. And unfortunately, because I have always known them prior to the pronoun shift as a he, it's been a process for me to get into referring to them as they now are. So it's not about me trying to be intentionally disrespectful or anything like that. I am doing my best, but unfortunately, when I'm in the rhythm of speaking, I sometimes slip, and that's certainly not anything that I'm trying to do. So my apologies.
But if you enjoyed this issue of Moon Knight, there's a lot for you to go back to. I think Sal mentioned one run by a somebody that I'm forgetting.
Charles Houston.
Charles Houston.
From 2006. Apparently, I was just listening to their review of that, actually, ComicPop's review of that, because I'm looking for a way into Moon Knight. And this book has early David Finch art.
Ooh, interesting. Okay.
Yes.
That's cool.
It's funny because Tyler mentioned this run when we
mentioned
did
the
our
Finch
review,
art, I think.
But he didn't know who the writer was. He couldn't remember. This was that run.
Oh, look at that.
Because I remember a run on Moon Knight from those years, but I didn't buy it because I didn't know who the writer was and I didn't know who Moon Knight was. But I remember the David Fincher covers. So
there you go. And for anybody else listening, like that stuff's awesome. Plus the Declan Shalvey, Cullen Bunn / Alice run, and then the Jeff Lemire, Greg Smallwood stuff. Amazing. That shit's fire.
Yeah. So Moon Knight, low key has had several.
No, Moon Knight.
Sorry?
No, Moon Knight.
Oh my God, Kill. Jesus. Moon Knight has low key had several really cool runs that kind of fly under the radar. But now that the character is going to be played by Oscar Isaac, I feel like everyone's going to say their favorite character is Moon Knight all of a sudden.
Yep.
Yeah, I've been a Moon Knight fan for maybe like 10 years.
I swear, and this is totally anecdotal. All my friends, we have these conversations, and they're like, "Yeah, my favorite villain is Thanos," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, since when?" Because I've known you for a long time, and you were saying the Joker like 2 years ago. Okay?
I fucking love Kang.
Yeah.
You know about this guy, Kang? Love him.
I've told people about Kang because like everyone's asking me like, "Oh, who's Kang? Who's Kang?" And I've told them about it. I guarantee you, by the time Avengers 5 is around the corner, I'm gonna ask them. They're gonna be like, "Oh yeah, my favorite villain's Kang. Kang's so cool." Okay, got it. Let's shift gears. Thank you to everyone who wrote in. We really appreciate it. You guys are tremendous. Pals Nation. I think that we're working on that one. Maybe
I don't like it.
Yeah,
no,
I'm crazy about it.
Okay, fine.
Tell us what you want to be called. Do you have
you guys?
The Pals Collective? The Pals... Here's one.
Union?
The Pals Verse?
Okay, now we're done. Now we're officially done.
Uh-oh.
No more.
That's not an option, by the way. If you start a Twitter poll, that will not win, and that will be disregarded.
Even if it won, it wouldn't win.
Yeah, absolutely. So put that out of your mind.
Let's jump into the news, shall we? Batgirl has been cast. The search for Batgirl, by all accounts, was extensive. There were reports that they were looking at several different people to play that character, but they have finally landed on one person, and that is Leslie Grace. If you watch In the Heights, you will know who she is. I believe, I didn't watch it, but I believe she played the primary woman in that.
She was a titular character.
Yeah.
Was she the titular? Was she the height?
Well, she was a lead. Yes.
Or was she the?
She was the.
Oh, she was the in. I see.
She was the in.
Of course.
So she's gonna be playing. I was gonna let it go, Kale. Jeez,
I couldn't.
I feel you. I get it. So she's gonna be playing Batgirl. There's been obviously a conversation about the fact that she's Dominican. She is not a white redhead. And that's something that these new properties that pop up are going to have to face every time when they try to deviate from the norm. I don't know how I feel about this, to be honest. Like, I don't know her acting abilities. By all accounts, people who liked In the Heights liked her performance in it, so that's cool. The idea of Batgirl being Dominican is on its face fine. There's no reason inherent to the Batgirl character why she has to be white. But in Matt Reeves' Batman, Jim Gordon, who is her father, is black. So obviously, that can happen. But we also know that these are not connected stories, right? Like, by all accounts, DC is not all that pressed about sticking to continuity at this point. They're doing a multiverse. And, right after this, we're going to talk about Michael B. Jordan's Black Superman and how that doesn't make any sense anymore because there already is that. So, it feels like we just have to throw all that out the window. I will say, though, that I think if this wasn't an HBO Max project, they would have cast someone else in the role.
How do you mean?
I think that if this were a movie that was releasing in theaters, they would have cast a white woman.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's interesting. I think that the HBO stuff, they're willing to be flexible with pretty much anything, and I'm willing to allow that just because of the consistent quality that comes out of the most of their productions. And apparently, this is uh, In the Heights was her first film debut. Has been like a recording artist prior to this. At a few albums here or there, but I mean, her acting was really good. I'm personally excited because I think the idea from like a representation standpoint is really cool. Like my aunt, because she loves In the Heights, and a lot of she's in the theater space, happened to see this and shared it with me. And that's how I ended up finding it. So if anything, it also means that it's connecting to different audiences. And I think that's a great thing because this is something where she'll go see it because she has a familiarity with the character and wants to see how her career progresses. And I think that's a really great thing. It definitely doesn't bother me. And I think if anything, the fact that uh, Jim Gordon in the film is going to be black makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of Afro Latinos in general um, in the Caribbean. And if she does as good a job as she did in the Heights, I mean, this is awesome. I don't mind it. I'm definitely not a purist in the sense that it has to be the Barbara Gordon from the comics. I think if they can capture an essence or create a compelling character that fits within the mold of what Batgirl would do and would say and is, then I mean that's Batgirl in my eyes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly willing to accept it at this point. I'm always gonna have a little bit of hesitancy though because I want to see these characters as they are in the comics. But
Sure.
how else are we gonna get progress? It's not like they're gonna do a Far Sector movie, right? Although they should, right? Like they should, in my opinion. Like if you wanna diversify, like there are characters. We have more and more of these characters popping up in the comics. Like you don't have to wait 20, they don't have to be 20 years old for us to get them in these movies. But
is this Batgirl project on your radar at all?
I love Batgirl. I'm a huge fan of Batgirl, and I want this to succeed desperately. To be honest, I don't know that they're really setting it up for that.
Yeah.
Because I'm not like, okay, so it's being directed by the men who directed Bad Boys, the most recent Bad Boys film, Bad Boys for Life, which was okay. Like I mean, I like the movie, but I don't think that I wouldn't say that the direction was like tremendous or elevated or anything like that. And then Christina Hodson is writing it, and I really didn't like Birds of Prey. I didn't like the script. So, and Leslie Grace, I have no frame of reference for her.
Yeah.
But I was hoping we would get someone who had, some real chops as far as like experience and stuff like that. Obviously, actors come out of nowhere all the time and they knock your socks off, and you're like, wow, where was this person all my life? So that's the least of my concerns as far as this whole Batgirl project is concerned. But the fact that it's on HBO Max gives me more pause than anything I just said.
Yep.
That to me strikes as a lack of confidence. I don't know.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
You don't think this is like a Loki situation where they're gonna tell a story within, or like a Falcon story where they're gonna tell it as a series before bringing them into the larger DC universe? Because apparently it's at least from what I'm reading here, it's part of the expanded universe overall.
I mean, but what isn't? Like they don't have a whole, thing.
Like
all of their
delineation.
stuff spins out, in some direction.
Sure.
Well, what's telling you that this will be a part of their universe?
It's supposed to be in line with some of the Matt Reeves stuff, or at least on like Wikipedia says it's since it's on HBO, part of the Warner umbrella, it's going to be part of the extended universe for DC.
Well, it'll be a part of the extended universe, but we don't know where it'll fit in the multiverse, because remember now DC is like doing a whole multiverse thing. So Matt Reeves' Batman isn't connected to Joker, which isn't connected to, you know, Man of Steel. Like Matt Reeves' Batman is not a part of the universe that started from Man of Steel. So they haven't said where Batgirl fits into that mix. Like, is her father going to be Jim Gordon from Matt Reeves' Batman? Or is it going to be Jim Gordon from Justice League, right? Like,
sure.
Or is it going to be a whole different actor? They haven't even said those things. And that's what frustrates me about these announcements, is that when DC says something, we have to ask ourselves 50 questions about where this fits in.
And that's kind of why I'm not bothered about it at all. I don't know this actress, so I'm sure she'll do great with what she's given. But I just I have no, there's zero hype for this for me. And I mean, I'm on the same level with you, Sean. I like Batgirl. I like Batgirl a lot. But I'm certainly not going to go out of my way to get HBO Max for Leslie Grace or the directors of Bad Boys 3.
Yeah. It could be good. Obviously, there's absolutely always that possibility. And I think that Batgirl fans, especially with all the like stuff that has gone on with Joss Whedon, and he was attached, and how that shook out, like I think they really have to make this good.
Yeah.
And if they don't, that's going to rub a lot of people the wrong way. But you tell me Batgirl on HBO Max, not in theaters, I don't know. That's just me though. What we are also not getting in theaters is Michael B. Jordan's vision for a Black Superman. Obviously, we know that Ta-Nehisi Coates is writing a Black Superman film, and that will feature Kal-El, Clark Kent, Black. That's what we know. What's being reported is that alongside that, Michael B. Jordan is developing a series on HBO Max featuring Val Zod, who is also a Black version of Superman, this one from Earth 2, to have his own series. I don't get it. I can't say that I understand it. Like, okay, you want to do a Black Superman. You have Michael B. Jordan screaming for years, like, I want to do Black Superman. Why not just let that be the project? Why are there two projects? Why do you take Clark Kent and make him Black, but then also say, okay, but there's this other Superman who's also Black?
Is Val Zod President Superman, or is that something else?
No, that's something else. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
This is a character who obviously survived the destruction of Krypton, but he comes to an Earth that Superman already exists on, from what I recall, and maybe I'm wrong, but I believe he takes up the mantle after Superman dies.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's it's from the Earth 2 after the New 52.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
I mean, it's confusing. I think that I don't think that this one's going to be made, frankly. It just seems like there's a lot of in development stuff, and this one feels like they might not make it in favor of the film version, because that's going to have more of a reach, more of an impact.
I feel the opposite.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I think they'll put oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think they'll put a stop to the Black Clark Kent or some executive will say, people know Clark Kent as a white guy, so let's just stick with that.
To me, they already officially announced the Ta-Nehisi Coates movie. I don't think they can turn their back on that, because if they turn their back on that in favor of a series, that's not a good look.
Yeah, it's diminishing a bit.
I mean, it's Warner Brothers, like, they don't look good, so
they could do it. I'm just saying I think that will backfire really badly. They can do whatever they want, but
yeah,
if they chose that route, that would not sit well, because they made such a big deal.
Yeah, I'm not saying they're gonna, cancel the Ta-Nehisi Coates film altogether, but until we see someone cast, I'll be very surprised if we see Clark Kent as a black man.
I don't see a reason not to just integrate these two into each other. Have Michael B. Jordan, because the rumor suggests that he may play the character in this series, and that is the kind of thing that will put butts in seats. You say to me, Ta-Nehisi Coates is writing it, Michael B. Jordan is playing the character, and it's Val-Zod or it's President Superman, like whatever. I'm way in on that, because that's being respectful, which I believe it's necessary, respectful to Clark Kent as he is, but it's also introducing people to a new character who is also Superman, who is also black. I think that's the way to go. But you just say, okay, there's no more white Superman, screw Henry Cavill, whatever to him. Now you've got two black Supermen. I don't know. To me, that's not, I don't know.
Is Henry Cavill still, like, he's still in like contract and stuff with all that, right? Like, he's still technically Superman in the DC universe.
I think the only people that know that are the Warner Brothers executives.
The thing is, I don't think he is.
Yeah.
I don't think he is. They've tried to divorce themselves from that whole deal, I feel, because it was I forget what presentation they did, but they were talking about like the legacy of these characters on screen, and they showed Wonder Woman, of course, played by Gal Gadot. They showed all the people who, like Aquaman, played by Jason Momoa, all that good stuff. But then when they showed Batman and Superman, they showed Christopher Reeves, and they showed
George Clooney,
Val Kilmer.
Okay.
Like they both went there.
They showed Christian Bale. So they didn't show Henry Cavill. They didn't show what's his name?
Ben Affleck.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Certainly not the stash.
No. I don't know. To me, this is a bad look. I'm not saying that I don't want to see Michael B. Jordan's vision for Superman, because he has talked a lot about it over the years. It's been, it's come up. But you gotta, pick and choose and do this stuff right. And I don't feel like they are. I just don't.
I think your middle ground's pretty solid as like one from a exec perspective. Like, hey, let's get Michael B. Jordan as the lead. He's been wanting to do this for a while. Let's get Ta-Nehisi Coates as the writer. Like, that makes sense in terms of being able to pass that through, like a board, let's say. Mm-hmm. And I agree. I think that's going to get people to want to come in for this film. I think also it'll curtail the critique of Superman, like who is the Superman? Can Clark Kent be a black character? It just curtails all that. And it's like, well, we're starting fresh, and I think fresh is a good thing for the DC universe.
I agree. I mean, I think that they've tried to center Flashpoint as this movie that's gonna like open the floodgates for the multiverse and kind of be a clean slate and everything else. And if that's the case, being able to say, hey, the Superman of this next generation of films is Michael B. Jordan,
I'm in.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool. I think that's a way to do progress in a natural way. But I don't think DC knows what their plan is at this point. So let's talk about Saga. Can you believe that? Saga, the book that hasn't released an issue
like 3 years.
It's really got its own saga.
Yeah, like
At this point, the book's been in hiatus almost as much as long as it's been published.
yeah, absolutely. Because Saga started in 2012, and it's been on hiatus since 2018. So it ran for 6 years. It's been on hiatus for 3. But keep in mind, within those 6 years, there were also delays and there were also breaks and things like that, which are natural for Image books. But like Saga's notorious for these really long breaks, and this is, of course, the longest one. I don't think I've waited longer for the next issue of a comic than I have for this. The only other like really extended wait that I can recall was the wait for the finale of Joss Whedon's Astonishing X-Men, which was super long, but this is longer than that.
I feel like I was waiting for a while for Doomsday Clock, right?
Doomsday Clock was long. That was like 3 months, I think.
Oh, was that it?
Yeah.
Yeah, felt like 3 years.
Sure did.
Well, the totality of their breaks or their delays, I should say, was really long. That was supposed to take a year to come out. It finished. It took 2.5 years, I think, to finish. So, Saga's been on hiatus for 3 years, and the crazy thing is that I don't know that I think Saga's bigger now. I think the hype for its return is massive.
Yeah, I know it like anecdotally as the book that people came in. It was one of the books that got me into like that next wave of Image books in 2011, 2012. Yeah. And I know for a fact it's one of those books that does really well in trade because people like to recommend it as this like these collected arcs. This book I think has gotten enough people on board that I wonder how. Like, is this going to be the next comic to sell 1 million copies? You know, like it's gotten so big at this point where, at the very least, people are gonna maybe jump into the monthly format with it because they've been so hungry for it.
You know what? You could be right about that. I don't think that that's out of the realm of possibility at all. I do want to share why we're talking about Saga because there's apparently news coming. So comic book shop owners received a message from Brian K. Vaughan himself, basically letting them know that there was big news coming and that the book was going to be returning soon. So he said, "Hey, retailer friends, Brian K. Vaughan here, interrupting your regularly scheduled solicitation to say thank you for your undying patience while Fiona Staples and I have been hard at work on the second half of Hazel's epic journey. We promise that exciting news is coming, and we wanted to offer your customers a cool new way to catch up on our Eisner Award-winning series. This gorgeous box set collecting all 9 of our best-selling trade paperback collections in one affordable package. We think it's the perfect way to introduce any mature readers who haven't yet tried Saga to our weirdly wonderful universe. Thanks again, and we look forward to gracing your stands with more issues very soon." So, first of all, I don't know if you guys got the chance to see the box set that they're doing for it. It's very nice.
Beautiful. Goose is on with the with Friendo. Love them. So good.
I wish there was color consistency among the different trades. It kind of just looks like these trades are the trades that they would put out, just put together, which is a weird way to do that. I feel like you would design a new trade dress and things like that, but okay.
This is cool. And I think the cost for it is, it comes out November 17th. That is the day after my birthday. So I expect to arrive to be doing the episode and for it to arrive at my door. It's been a theme on the pals here. But $125 for 9 volumes, that's $13 a pop for like each one. That's super affordable.
That's not bad.
Pretty good. That's a great way to introduce, he said it himself and he's absolutely right. That's a great way to introduce someone to Saga. I think that date, that particular point in time is telling as well. I think that by the time that drops, we will know when Saga's coming back or the first issue will be coming out that same month.
Oh, it's gonna be wild.
something bigger.
Right.
Bigger?
And that's something suggested in the Bleeding Cool article by Rich, is that maybe we'll get a movie announcement.
Yep. BKV's finally getting his with Why the Last Man.
And Paper Girls, apparently.
And Paper Girls. So, honey,
But-
y'all got a storm coming.
For Saga, though, I feel like probably not. Well, and this is just based off of like previous interviews that I've read from both Brian K. Vaughan and from Fiona Staples. Like, one of the ideas that they had in making this series was the fact that they wanted to make it so outlandish and so like artistically focused, so that it could be really difficult to adapt. That it would be very hard to leave it from the medium from which it started. So unless that's changed for them, cool. But from what I remember reading, years back at this point, like halfway through this half of the run, they were vehemently against it being turned into a film. They wanted to retain all rights.
What's it? His first day?
You know what, Kale? Go read Saga. It's a nice package coming out.
Nah.
He might just make you by giving you a stocking stuffer of the entire run.
You know what, Marco? You get that for me, I will absolutely read it. That's my condition, though.
Okay.
At this point, I'm holding out of spite. So
I think that they would be absolutely foolish not to go forward with some form of an adaptation. I think that I think Saga would function perfectly as a television show on an Amazon.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty clear how they can make that work. And I don't think that anything that they did, frankly, in Saga is so ridiculous that it can't be adapted. Technology is at a place where there's nothing you can't show. And I think Saga's probably the biggest book that's not already been adapted that doesn't come from Marvel or DC, right?
Yeah. If we can put Jeff Bezos in space, or if Jeff Bezos can put himself in space, they've got the budget for Saga.
Yeah, I don't buy that it can't be done. And I know what you're talking about, Marco, because I remember them saying that as well. But the money's just there, right? Like, why would you not just say, yeah, let's get the money? But there is something to be said, of course, about them wanting to retain the rights. I have to imagine that there's a way to do that and still do some form of an adaptation.
Sure. Yeah. If the side art, like art on this box would be like a poster, well, shit, I'd be sold. Like a movie poster. That'd be fucking wild, bro. Like if Goose would be all fuzzy, Friendo would just be like this, like,
you know what,
lardy guy.
That's fucking that's toys.
I have one of the. I think I have a Goose toy actually.
But I'm saying with a movie. Like,
for sure.
That's toy money right there.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Lion Cat. Hell yeah, dude.
And that's the thing too, right? Is like Saga has so many characters that people will fall in love with. Like, could you imagine Lion Cat? Like that meme. Think about the meme that would be.
Yep.
If like anytime like Donald Trump says something, people take a screenshot of Lion Cat. Boom, right? And that's not happening now necessarily, but if Saga was a movie or a TV show, it'd be all over the place. I think Saga is ripe for that, or ripe for the picking for things like that. And it's all it's going to take is for them to sign the dotted line, I think.
Ooh, we should get on the ground floor with that meme. Marco, get on that.
Yeah, we should.
The Lion Cat meme.
The Lion Cat meme. I wouldn't be the first one to do it.
It exists, of course, but
all right.
I just feel like
bro, a plushie though, like every time like Kale says something, lying.
Well-known liar.
Yeah, Kale, the well-known liar. Oh my goodness. But one of the coolest things about Saga is the fact that it doesn't just feel like it's Brian K. Vaughan's vehicle. It very much feels like it's Fiona Staples and Brian K. Vaughan.
Yeah.
And I've never seen her express anything other than happiness about the relationship and the rights and how things have gone. And unfortunately, that is not always true in comics, and we're finding out more and more that it's often not true for artists, being mistreated. This week, actually, a major story kind of broke on Twitter. And this one hit me hard, actually, and that's why I'm making the space to talk about it. That Rick Remender, actually, he came under fire for his mistreatment of artists.
Yeah, I saw like Wes Craig had to like clarify stuff.
So I'm gonna break it all down, just because it really is a bummer. So Rick Remender, of course, is well known and well regarded for several different stories. Deadly Class, of course, notoriously was just it didn't work out ultimately, but that was adapted. And there's been some cool stuff there. He recently put out The Scumbag, which has been a pretty successful book by all accounts. That was actually his most successful book at Image. His most successful launch. Yeah. So Scumbag launched and sold, I think the number was 70K.
Wow.
And that is not even close to the number that Uncanny Avengers did, which was his biggest launch overall at 300K. But because of the fact that he owns it and everything, that he'll make more money off of that than Uncanny. So there was a tweet going around about it seems like it's been deleted. I could be wrong about that, but I know that I bookmarked it and now I can't find the thread. So I think it might have been deleted, but it was an artist talking about the pay and the right stuff and the low pay of creators, something we talked about last week. So this is really piggybacking off of that. And Louis LaRosa, who was the artist on issue 1 of The Scumbag, shared an article from Bleeding Cool that talked about what I just said about The Scumbag sales. And then he went on to say that he doesn't receive any money for that. And that Rick Remender basically told him he was lying about his health, as to why I guess he couldn't draw future issues or was having trouble. And he accused him of lying about his health and did not allow him to reap the benefits of the book's success.
Holy shit.
So that caused a firestorm of conversation where several different creators were talking about, their bad interactions with different writers or different, companies, sharing their good interactions. David LaFuente said, he actually said, "Now you know why I didn't draw issue 8 of The Scumbag, issue 8 or 9, whichever it was." But he came out and said that. So Louis LaRosa said, this is a tweet actually from just an hour ago. He said, R.E. Remender, I signed over IP rights and rights to royalties when I needed to leave Scumbag due to my long-term health problems and was paid an agreed upon rate. I wish no harm to him personally or professionally. Please continue to support him and his projects. So that's what he's saying now. But at the time that he piggybacked off of the conversation that was already taking place about this hot button issue, it seemed as though Remender was being the scumbag in this instance by insisting that LaRosa was lying about his health. So now Rick Remender is under attack. People seem to be implying that this is a well-known secret that he is this way. And it is a huge bummer. I love Rick Remender. Rick Remender, as much as I talk about Grant Morrison, Rick Remender is my favorite writer. And I hate the idea that this is true about him, especially after everything that went on at Marvel. After he was the banner holder for creators' rights and for better pay for creators in 2004 and 2003 or 2013 and 14. I'm sorry. And he was the banner holder of betting on yourself and striking out. And I talked about it not that long ago about how he was writing about how he had to accept a different standard of living and like deal with some really tough times for his family because he was choosing to bet on himself. And now you're telling me that the same person who left Marvel due to bad treatment, is treating his artists like shit? That sucks.
I mean, yeah, I guess not to cast aspersions on people who do, exactly what you just described, but there can be kind of a dark side to all that, right? Like he doesn't feel like he's getting enough money, so he's gonna, take it away from the people he's working with.
Yeah, but and I was coming across like a few tweets here about like him sicking like lawyers on Luis LaRosa, and that's why they ultimately came to an agreement. I mean, if you come across like somebody where you're coming into an agreement with them, you're saying that this is what ends up happening, and I'm making a lot of assumptions here as to Remender, how they came to terms on all this stuff. If they're coming to some sort of agreement and retroactively somebody doesn't think that it's fair anymore, I mean, you came into terms with that. Like before, we negotiated this prior to us engaging in this so that we would avoid this very issue. And if that's not something you're willing to hold yourself to or another creator to, I don't think it's Remender's fault. Again, if this is true, I don't think it's Remender's fault for saying, well, we abided by this. This was the agreement that we came to. And now that you feel that, let's say there was more success than you would have thought, you want to renegotiate that, I think you're well within your right to want to renegotiate. But if at the end of the day, they say, no, this is what we agreed to, I'm not going to put that on Remender or LaRosa for wanting to renegotiate either. Like it ends up being what it is.
Yeah, and the other side of the coin, of course, is that some of Remender's collaborators, like Wes Craig, have come forward and said, like, no, my experience was always super positive with him, and he's a good guy by all accounts, as far as I'm aware. J.G. Jones actually said the same thing. He said, Rick has always treated me well, and it seemed out of character to me. I think that there's two sides to this. And by the way, Remender has not said a word about it. I don't know if this is related or not, but his Twitter is devoid of any tweets.
Yeah, apparently he deleted them.
He deleted all his tweets. On the one hand, I think that Luis LaRosa should not have joined in the conversation about creators' rights if he was going to backpedal after, because he created a climate where now's the time to shit on Rick Remender. And now he's backpedaling and saying, no, hold on. I gave up the rights because I was sick and I couldn't do the book, and, don't shit on him. I don't wish him any ill will, whatever. So now you're saying it's not what we thought it was. But at first, he was pretty upfront about the fact that Rick Remender treated him poorly. On the other hand, just because Lewis is saying this now doesn't mean that Rick didn't do bad stuff. And like I said, other artists have come forward. LaFuente, again, said he thought this was just something that wasn't public, but that all artists already knew and behind the scenes what Remender's like. So I don't know where to fall on this, but it's shitty if it's true that Remender forced him out or treated him poorly in any way. And we know that this happens to artists, whether it's Remender or whoever. We know it happens. And it's bullshit. It's bullshit.
Just have to wait and see what the fallout is. I mean, you know, if Remender's off Twitter, then you know what are we supposed to do? We can't get that other side at the moment.
Man.
Yeah, we probably won't get the other side ever. I kind of doubt that Remender's going to speak to this, but I wish he would. I really do, because like I said, Rick Remender is an idol of mine. Like, I love this man in terms of his creative stuff, in terms of the message that he tries to send through his books, in terms of the fact that he stood up for himself to Marvel when he felt he was being mistreated. And it's hard for me to swallow the idea that he's doing the same thing to others. And it's like on a much smaller scale, but it's much more personal because Marvel's a machine. There's probably not a specific person at Marvel that was like, I'm going to treat you like shit. It's the system itself that's designed not to be good to creators, and maybe not even maliciously. Like, yeah, you can't just tell whatever story you want at Marvel. It's Marvel, you know? That's not trying to be bad to creators or stifle their creativity. It is what it is, a bigger system. But if you're just one-on-one with creators and you're treating them badly, that's really not cool. So we'll find out, if anything, if Remender ever decides to speak to it. Maybe he can clarify and we can move on and not have to hate Rick, because I don't want to do that. Last but not least today, though, we are talking about James Gunn, of course, the director of Suicide Squad, which is incoming, and the director of Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2, who says now that superhero movies are boring.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Fuck yeah. Get him.
Yeah, get him, Kale. What are your thoughts?
Unfortunately,
I didn't say it. I mean, I've been saying it, but
I have the wrong two pals on the show for this conversation.
Whoa, what do you mean?
You know exactly what I mean.
You know exactly what he means.
I'm offended, Sean, that you're insinuating that I think negatively of superhero films.
Of garbagians of the galaxy trash.
I'm going to read his comments real quick. He said, "We know about the way cowboy films went and the way war films went. I don't know. I think you don't have to be a genius to put two and two together and see that there's a cycle to those sorts of films, you know, and that the only hope for the future of comic book and superhero films is to change them up. They're really dumb, and they're mostly boring for me right now. I loved them at the beginning. I was really excited when they first started making those movies. It was about the visual effects when I saw Superman as a kid. I still love that movie. Okay, I know. That's a guy on wires and blue screen with this sort of crappy visual effects. And then when Iron Man came out, I was in. You're able to make a guy fly around who looks like a guy flying around. And that was a beautiful thing to be able to do. But if the movies don't change, it's going to get really, really boring."
What? That's a hot take. Especially as it relates to like the cycle of like the cycle of movies, fine, but that's not to say that because they go like out of favor, they're not quality. You know, True Grit's I really enjoyed that film. It's a Western, and that's not to say that you can't. Like, they're not the big thing, they're not popular right now, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to diminish quality. So on that, using that as an example in terms of like cycle related back to quality, I think that's an opinion that doesn't stand ground. The same way with like war films. Like, we have a new war film, you know, pretty much yearly.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and you know that again, they're not as popular and as frequent in production as they might have once been. But I enjoyed Dunkirk. 1917 was wild. There's a lot there from a quality perspective, and to the point that, you know, they have to do different things. I think that's fair. Logan's a great example. There's a bunch of other examples, just as it relates to like being a superhero film, but being wacky within the post MCU world, like Venom, right? Like that I never expected. I would have been like, yo, Venom's like a movie to watch. It turned out to be, and that's because it did different things. So just because it's the fad now doesn't necessarily mean that we won't consistently keep getting quality. It just might not be as there might not just be as much volume around it.
Kale, do you have a retort?
I guess my response would just be like, yeah, you know, true grit is good, but like how many Westerns were there that weren't true grit that you can think of? You know, how many war films were there that weren't Band of Brothers or 1917? Or it's not to say that they can't be quality. You know, those films do something different. They tell a decent story. That's why they stand the test of time. But, you know, when you put something into the machine, you know, it's not always going to churn out a 20-year franchise. You know, I think his point is that, you know, with regards to cowboy and to westerns and war films, is that this bubble is going to pop unless they innovate. And I do think we're seeing that, you know, to a degree. I think you know, stuff like Birds of Prey and even Loki, you know, and WandaVision, like that stuff is innovating, is trying different things. But, you know, your hulking purple guy isn't that exciting. You know, you've already got a hulking green guy. What's the difference? You know, I agree with him, but I do think, and I think he thinks as well, that there are things that are coming around the corner now that they're starting to innovate. You know, it's not all going to be Doctor Strange and Captain Marvel and Black Widow even. I think they're working on it. I think he's observing that.
I think if every superhero movie were like the ones you just mentioned, this would have phased out already. And I know you're not saying that there are that. I think that this criticism is late, and I think that you know, I'll be honest. I think he's showing his ass a little bit because James Gunn is promoting a superhero movie and has done two of them that, frankly, I found to be among the more boring ones that have come out.
Damn.
Yeah, I don't really love those movies that much. Like, I get that they're about family and whatever, like that's fine, but I don't think that the original Guardians movie was that innovative. Like, it was cool. I'm not saying it wasn't cool, but I don't think it was this revolutionary movie. Like, clearly he did things that were good because Rocket, Groot, and Star-Lord are massive characters, right? But that doesn't also mean that it was a revelation. Those characters were well done and well crafted, but that doesn't mean that the structure and the plot that they existed in was radically so much different than anything that had come before in terms of the story. The setting was different, the characters were different, but the story was not that crazy. And I don't think Guardians 2 really took it and to a completely different level. Compare those movies to the subject matter of Black Panther. Notoriously, The Winter Soldier was a spy movie, like a real departure from what we were used to in terms of superhero movies. And this is that's why this is ridiculous too. Guardians of the Galaxy is more of a superhero movie than Winter Soldier is. In terms of if you say like superhero movie as an umbrella, and then there's all these different like genres outside of that, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't think that superhero movie is a thing in that way, right? But Guardians feels more to me like that than most of the movies from Phase 3 and beyond. Like, do you think that Black Panther feels like a superhero movie in the traditional sense?
Not like the traditional, or here's your origin and here's your first outing. But it's definitely much more of a like It feels like there's a personal story interwoven there that I think differentiates it. And yeah, your point's salient, right? Like this, I think this is late criticism. I think if this was, the like the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man sort of situation, like cool, I get what you're saying, bro, but we've moved on from that. And I think we've definitely had the conversation that, these films are no longer just superhero. It's superhero plus this, or this in with a superhero dressing on it. And I think that that we've moved on. This is past.
And I think that's the thing, is this criticism also isn't new. Like a
Sure.
lot of people have said this way before James Gunn. And I think it's, while I do think it's a valid criticism, like we said, it's old, and people better than James Gunn have said it.
You're right, but I just don't understand why, because this isn't the first time he's said this. I'm really not understanding why James Gunn continues to make these kinds of statements, because I don't think they're true. And it's weird to me that he would think that. When you think, like, genuinely, legitimately, when you think about the last 10 years of movies, superhero movies, we'll say, we've had some real gems, and you only get, like, in terms of, I guess, Marvel and DC, like, let's say 4 to 5 at the maximum per year. And within that year, I would say most of them are good for the standards of these movies. They're not like, they're not going to mostly they're not going to win awards for best screenplay or whatever, but they're pretty good. And then over the last few years, we've really had some amazing films. Again, Logan comes to mind. I personally think that Infinity War and Endgame, especially within that world, are tremendous movies. I don't get it. I don't get it. And like you mentioned, Kel, not even a year ago, and even this year, we've had some really standout superhero stories with WandaVision and Loki. And in my opinion, Falcon Winter Soldier, but we're talking about them being different. I think those were very different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I sort of wonder if it's just one of these things that somebody took out of context and made it a headline because he's directing another superhero film. And, he's trying to say, I think superhero films are boring, so I want to innovate, as opposed to the bubble's going to pop, superhero films are boring.
I don't know, man. I've seen Gunn say these things before. He said, the only hope for the future of comic book and superhero films is to change them up. They're really dumb, and they're mostly boring for me right now. That's a pretty strong statement. They're really dumb?
I don't disagree.
You think that Phase 3?
I think most of them are. I've seen them all. I have the books. I mean, you're like you said, you're barking up the wrong tree here. I've already been converted. James Gunn won me.
That's a fair point.
Scorsese won, Kale.
Sorry, like I spilled my popcorn and then laughed through Infinity War. It's not, this stuff isn't for me anymore. And I don't know how to tap back into that. I'm desperately trying. I swear I am. It's just not here. It's just not.
Yeah, you got to read more comics.
I also really take umbrage, and this will be my last point on this. I take umbrage with the calling them dumb and boring. It feels elitist. And that's something that I really strongly dislike about, I mean, comics get criticized in the same way all the time. And it's like, you're not too good to read a comic book. You're not too good to, watch a comic book movie. You're a human, and there are obviously millions of people who, and I'm not saying this to you, Kel. I'm saying this about James Gunn saying that they're dumb and boring.
Didn't he say to him? Didn't he add the caveat, dumb and boring to me?
He said they're really dumb, and then period, and they're mostly boring to me right now. I loved them at the beginning.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty strong statement, clear. I don't think that that's a fair criticism, and I think that it's putting yourself on a pedestal of I'm too smart for this stuff, and that's not true. I don't think that you're stupid if you enjoy Marvel movies. I don't think you have to be a genius to enjoy the movies that James Gunn himself has made.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. One thing I would also counter that with, though, is he also knows how the sausage is made. Mm-hmm. So I wonder if, like, the magic of it has worn away for him in that, in that way. That's like, of course he doesn't like watching these things. They're dumb and boring because he knows the ins and outs. He can see the plot. He can, see the character arcs. He can, he does these things.
What do you think about that, Marco?
I mean, it does. I mean, it would affect his perception of the production end more. But if you're out there trying to tell a story, I think that gets communicated more than the mechanics of something, especially if it's a good story. Like, yes, you'll understand how maybe they got a shot or maybe how they did a special effect, and you can appreciate the work that goes into it. In my opinion, it would elevate the movie more. But that would be me appreciating the fact that they were able to make something look cool and did it so effectively. And if he feels like because he knows how the sauce is getting made now, I mean, I would think that that's grounds to do something differently then. Hey, cool, I know how this is typically made. How do I make it so that it's interesting for me? And I'm gonna liken this to like learning music, where I've recently I've gotten frustrated with how I've been playing, and what I ended up doing was I decided I'm going to retune my entire guitar, and I'm playing in a D major, basically. So all the strings are no longer what they typically are. I'm going to try to relearn as much as I can from the ground up because I want to do something different. I'm going to get different sounds. I want to challenge myself a bit more. For me, if you're not finding something as entertaining, then throw it out the window and try something absolutely brand new. And I haven't been as frustrated learning guitar as I have been in the past, but in a good way, where I don't know where my fingers are going anymore, and that feels good because I feel like I was relying on like muscle memory, less so having my brain have to work. And this feels like something similar, where like if you're viewing something where you know how it's made, the mechanics of it, then do something to rewire that, where you have to push yourself and you have to challenge yourself and you have to make a new type of genre so that you could fit the superhero stuff in. For me, it's just grounds for innovation.
I mean, but that's also sort of been his jam with superheroes. Like he did the one well before, how was it called? It wasn't Kick-Ass, but it was something. It had the guy who played Dwight from The Office.
Yeah.
That was something new for the time. You
Sure.
know, Guardians was something new for the time. No matter how you look back at it, in the MCU, it was something new. I think he's gonna try that with Suicide Squad. Can't necessarily speak to that because it comes out next week, but but also the other thing is he's finished with that.
Sure.
So maybe this is, no, he's doing something else, isn't he? Is the next Guardians.
He's doing the next Guardians, and there's a Guardians, I believe there's like a special, a holiday special that's going to be coming out next year. And Peacemaker. Lord. He's also making Peacemaker. So.
Oh, that's right. Damn, well, shot himself in the foot if he thinks it's boring now.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
I was going to say, but I mean, all those things, maybe he's, we don't know how far along the Guardians projects are, if at all. The Peacemaker thing is honestly probably already done as well. And who's to say, maybe he's doing exactly what you're describing. It's just not, he's trying to restring his guitar, as it were, just in the superhero genre as opposed to films in general.
Sure. Yeah, and if he's not content with that, then yeah, I mean, totally fair for him to do that. But I think to tackle it as like a monolith, I think that I take issue with that.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to be very, very interested to see how Suicide Squad is. I want to see the intelligence of that film. I want to see how smart James Gunn can be if he thinks that the rest of the superhero movies are dumb. And to be fair, he could easily, if he were a part of this conversation, he would say, hey, listen, I'm not saying that my superhero movies are smart. I'm just saying that the whole thing is dumb. And, fair point, right? But if you're going to throw stones, right?
Yeah.
That's just my thing. But we will, of course, be reviewing Suicide Squad when it drops. You can, of course, look for that over here. The movie drops August 6th. So
July 30th for me.
Yeah, so Kale and all those people who live in parts of the world that aren't as important as America will have access to the film a little bit earlier. And we won't be getting Kale's thoughts because we don't want to be spoiled.
Unless you're in the Discord. In which case we still don't want to be spoiled.
It's
Black Bar Forbidden Zone.
There you go. That TV
and what I mean is
channel.
I won't be using black bars. They are forbidden. I'm gonna spoil the shit out of this movie. Y'all better get rid of the Discord.
We'll get rid of you in the Discord.
You can't. I'm an admin.
We can absolutely get rid of you.
I'll get rid of you first. I'll do it right now.
So then you get rid of me. Marco will get rid of you, right, Marco?
I'll get rid of him too. Don't even think.
Someone will avenge me.
I'll get rid of all the pals. Ain't nobody got nothing on me. I'm the king of the pals.
It's okay. No one has access to the master admin, so except for me. So
there you go.
I mean, listen, I got the password to the email. I'll change it all up.
Okay.
All right. You go ahead. You see how that works out for you, buddy. We are going to call it here. Thank you again to Sal from ComicPop for joining us. That was an awesome conversation. Once again, that is youtube.com/ComicPop. Go check them out. They're really cool. Really appreciate his jumping on to talk with us. Let us know your thoughts about whether or not superhero films are indeed boring. If you think they are, let us know. If you don't, let us know. We're down to have that conversation with you all, as we just did here among ourselves. And if you want to talk about anything else, you're free to do that as well by writing to us at thecomicspals@gmail.com. Of course, while you're thinking about us, leave us a follow, a rating, and a review wherever it is that you're listening to this show. If that happens to be YouTube, subscribe for free. Like the video, share it with your friends, hit the notification bell so you're made aware of when we drop new content. All those things are free to do, and they help us out a lot more than they cost you. Make sure that you guys tune into our Twitch stream of Journey into Quistery, hosted by Tyler Olson. It has already dropped for you guys listening now, so go back to the VOD and check that out. We really appreciate all the views, whether they are retroactive or not. That really is helpful. Stay tuned for all of our awesome book clubs, our weekly reviews, which are now dropping every single Thursday for Marvel, DC, etc., and then Image every single Wednesday. All that stuff is stuff that we want you guys to support if you're into it. And if you're not, let us know what we can do to make it interesting for you guys. With that, let's jump into the plugs. Kale gets the start this week. Oh, I should have done Marco.
You should have. You know what? But you know what? I'm going to interrupt because on the book club front, tune in tomorrow for the Suicide Squad book club, where one of us pals might get bloated up.
And to that, you really want to watch that one on YouTube.
Yeah, you really do. At minimum, the beginning and the end. If you need to fast forward or whatever, that's fine.
But the view will count, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Gil.
You can find Pete at loud_Pete. He's got a band, long friend, time friend. I think they hit their cool guy vinyl thing. So congrats, fellas. Thank you to the audience. If any of you got it, that's rad. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at TotoInto. That's TOTOINTOW. You can find my work at CaleWard.com. That's CALEWARD.com. And if you want spoilers for Suicide Squad, I will hook you up.
Terrible.
Marco.
You can find me at Mr. Marco Enomoto on Instagram and Twitter. Come talk to me about, I've been watching Jujutsu Kaisen. I'm fucking loving Jujutsu Kaisen. Come talk to me about everything Jujutsu Kaisen because I love saying it. It has such a good like. And then if you want to connect with that other guy that sometimes pops up on the show, what's his name again? Frederick Casey, some shit like that. You can go find him on Instagram and Twitter at Cyborg Bebop. That is CYBORG BEBOP.
I have a hot anime take, just real quick.
Oh, okay.
That might set our Weeb channel on fire. I didn't care for Mob Psycho 100.
I haven't seen it. I hear it's very good. Have not seen it though. I need to watch it. All right.
As for me, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram only at Sean Soapbox. We have to talk about the games that you're playing because I'm playing God of War right now, and this might actually be my favorite game of all time. This game is absolutely phenomenal. I can't get over it. I think about it constantly.
Very similarly, I just got through my first full run of Hades, and I think it might be my favorite game of all time.
Damn. Well, if we're talking about video games, I'm in the middle of playing Mario Golf. Let's fucking go.
Ooh.
All right. Well, but that doesn't have anything to do with the Greek pantheon, so that doesn't.
Tell me Luigi's not Greek? Or he's Italian?
He's Italian. So yes, that's exactly what I'm telling you.
We should just, you know what? Let's just X Pete out. Let's just do the video game pals.
Right now. Let's just do it. Let's just keep the recording. Let's just segue into the Steam Deck. Have you guys seen this?
All right. With that, we're the Comics Pals signing off. Take care, guys.
See you next week.
Bye.